Okay, we're here for the second part of this Ruby Frankie case where she shares her bed with that psycho cultist, psychiatrist, counselor, whatever the F she is, evil woman, marriage counselor to get rid of demons. Can you imagine going through all of that, getting your license and everything just to do this? How did you get to this point?
Bada bing,
There's
bada boom.
so many
They
people
say
like
that
that.
spirits all have something
Concerning.
that they want. And ever since Jodi Hildebrandt moved into the Frankie household, just weird things have been happening. People are hearing
She moved in?
Frankie household thing that they want. And ever since Jodi Hildebrandt moved into the Frankie household,
Oh, that's where they shared the bed, the marital bed. They didn't go to like her place or anything like that. That's crazy.
just weird things have been happening. People are hearing footsteps inside of the walls. That's what it sounds like. It's hard to explain, but it sounds as if someone is inside of the wall just
She brought
walking
demons with her.
around through the walls. The Frankies obviously didn't check inside the wall, but it's starting to freak some of them out. Whatever it is, it feels like Jodi brought it into the house with her. Whatever these spirits are. And now she's sitting on the bathroom floor
Bitch.
while the dad, Kevin Frankie, is shoving a camera in her face, documenting this allegedly torturous situation, while Kevin's wife, Ruby, is sitting next to this middle-aged Jodi Hildebrandt holding her so that Jodi doesn't accidentally harm herself. This happens maybe once a day, maybe a few times a day. It's like another being just enters Jodi Hildebrandt's body and starts controlling
What?
her movements. And it's so easy to tell because
She possessed?
immediately Jodi Hildebrandt's eyes get pinched closed and she starts breathing heavily. She looks like she's in pain. She looks perhaps even constipated. Today she's on the floor with her hands fisted into balls and she's slamming it down onto her chest.
Girl.
Ruby is gently trying to stop her, but nothing's really working. By this point, they've tried everything. I mean, Kevin was known as the resident exorcist for a minute, trying to cleanse Jodi of whatever evil spirits are following her around. He says, I would place my hands on her head, and then I would command the demons to depart. And then I would state
Sir.
every name of Jesus Christ that I could possibly think of. And those evil spirits were very reactive to those names. It became very clear. The minute he would start saying those names, Jodi would thrash and hiss and wail and growl at people. It was like she was being hurt every time Kevin said one of those names.
I'm not saying I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I don't believe in it. There's a gray spot. I always leave some area for wonder because who really truly knows? You have your own opinion on that, but there's certain cases where they already have like some sort of untreated mental illness, and then it just gets so exacerbated with stuff like this. Maybe she might tell us that she does have something like, what would be another mental illness she could possibly have? But then this guy over here is like trying to get the demons out of her. And then somehow she's just going to fully convince herself that she's being possessed. It's just making the whole situation worse. That was a really weird, she's like punching herself and everything. I don't know.
What is it that the spirits even want? It doesn't
She's
make
definitely
sense. Why
struggling.
Jodi Hildebrandt? Jodi lays there. Her eyebrows are crunched up in pain. And this new voice comes out. And it comes out like a deep, aggressive voice.
She's mine.
What did she just say? She's mine. She's mine. She knows. I own her.
She knows. I own her.
These are all recorded.
Yeah. Who is she that Jodi Hildebrandt is talking about? What does she want to do with her? Perhaps she's talking about Ruby Frankie.
That's what I thought
Maybe she
immediately.
wants Ruby Frankie to be hers. And maybe she's gonna do everything in her power to make sure that she is hers. This is the case of Ruby Frankie and Jodi Hildebrandt, the therapist and the YouTuber that were arrested for child abuse for holding 2 kids captive in the basement and torturing them.
I didn't not know we were gonna start off this way. That kind of took me by surprise, which I really like about that. But wow. I mean, if they're into this whole cult situation, they seem to be like knee deep in it, if not like the leaders of this cult. And it never goes, what cult really goes the right way? They all end up losing their minds, some sort of mutual psychosis, and end up torturing everyone else around them, if not full on killing everyone around them. It's like, what are we
We would
really
like to
getting
thank today's
into?
sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to directly support a survivor, Jesse Hildebrandt, who endured abuse at the hands of their aunt, Jodi Hildebrandt.
Wow.
Their information will be in the
Just
show notes if you'd like to share your support as well. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we would like to thank you guys for your continued support. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Today's case involves some very well-known names in the family vlogging world, Ruby and Kevin Frankie, plus their 6 children, best known as their channel name, 8 Passengers. All the minors in today's case have been protected and will simply be referred to as either boy, girl, or just their first initial. We will be using the names of the 2 eldest children, Sherry and Chad. They are of legal age. They've publicly spoken out about Ruby and Jodi. And additionally, Sherry recently published a book that I read, and like I said, you need to get 10 copies of this because no coverage of any news station, any documentary even compares to the truly visceral way. It's like such a vulnerable way that Sherry is able to convey her feelings about everything that's happened. And she does it without, there's so many points where it's very depressing to read, but ultimately the amount that she's shown to have grown from this is inspiring and incredible. It's one of those books that I think we will all be thinking about 2 days after reading it, 2 weeks, 2 months, and even 2 years down the line. Also, I believe she narrated the book herself, so if you're more into audiobooks, that would be a great way to listen. As for content warnings, there are descriptions of food restriction, child abuse, CSA, religious abuse, therapy abuse, as well as just overall abuse and torture in general. Now, side note, there is going to be a lot of conversation about the LDS Church in these episodes. Ruby and Jodi were devout members of the LDS Church, or at least they claim, or they thought they were, but they should not be used as representations of what the faith means or how it should be practiced. We are also not here to discuss the LDS Church or faith as a whole. I personally don't have much experience, but like with any religion, there's going to be bad people that do.
Yep, glad you mentioned that. Exactly what I was going to say. Anywhere you go, there's always going to be a bad bunch that just leaves probably the worst impression, makes, I don't know.
Bad things, and sometimes if the establishment protects them, I
Miserable
do think that
people.
there should be consequences for all those parties involved as well. With that being said, this was originally supposed to be a 3-part series, but with the addition of Ruby's personal journals
So it is
detailing
a
the torture,
4-part.
Kevin's claims that he did not know the kids were being abused, as well as just all the online conspiracies discourse, there's another woman that a lot of people want to be arrested.
The dad, bro. I didn't know the kids were being abused. Shut the hell up, okay? Sure, there might be some cases where that could be the case of whoever, the father, the mother, whatever other family member is in the house has no idea what's truly going on in the house if they're that absent, but you are like right in the forefront. You yourself may be a victim of your wife's actions, but you're not completely innocent. Whether you had a huge hand in it, in the torture, or you just decided to look the other way because you want nothing to do with this family and your crazy wife.
In connection with Jodi and Ruby, this is like the 3 Musketeers, and people online are saying you've only arrested 2 of the 3 Musketeers. So there's a lot of discourse there. Now this is going to be part 2 of the now 4-part series. Please go watch part 1 if you haven't already, and that's in depth onto Ruby Frankie's YouTube career, the channel 8 Passengers, how they go from making millions of dollars to just being canceled for suspected child neglect, and all of the video proof that Ruby Frankie is a pretty horrible mom. In this part, we will be going over Jodi Hildebrandt and how she likes to force divorces as a so-called marriage counselor and how she likes to ruin people's lives. In part 3, we go over the house that is her $5 million mansion in the middle of nowhere. And in part 4, we will go over all of the online conspiracies as well as the prison calls, how passionate netizens have been that
My
something
God,
needs
prison
to happen
calls.
to both Kevin, Frankie, and Pam. There's a woman named Pam. So with that being said, let's get started.
Another player added to this already convoluted story. I thought I mentioned it super briefly in the first video. Afterwards, after I finished watching it, I was like reflecting so much. Not to make it a comparison, because there's no comparison there, but I feel like a lot of people who grew up in extremely strict households can somewhat relate to what the Frankie children had gone through. There are certain exceptions though, differences in what Frankie puts forward in her punishments that really separates their situation from anyone else who grew up in that strict environment. Like, she just so evil. Like, her reasons for doing these things is, I mean, like, she just does it for the purpose of what mental, emotional, and now physical torture.
Do you think that you can pinpoint when exactly you made the worst decision of your life? Because marriage counseling is ruining Adam Paul Steed's entire life, including his marriage. Not even in the marriage counselor is biased and she keeps siding with my wife that a lot of husbands like to argue. It is so much worse than that. Marriage counseling will kickstart a chain of events that has Adam kicked out of college, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, hated by every single person he knows, and in jail.
Wow.
He's holding his little daughter in his arms when the officers arrive. This is a protective order. We're going to have to take your child. The little girl starts screaming, "Daddy, no, Daddy, no." And the authorities, they more or less just rip her from Adam's arms. He has no clue what the hell is happening right now. In exchange for his child being taken from him, Adam is now branded the most evil person in the entire campus of BYU in Utah.
How old is Adam?
He's in his early 20s. He's a college student.
Okay, and the kid
This
is...
picture is not giving early 20s.
Yeah, now if you see him on campus, it's like seeing Satan himself just walking casually through the corridors. He's evil. You know, he's got like a 500-page honor code file in his name, which... Okay, side note, BYU is a religious institution. So while a lot of institutions, they have honor code offices, they're typically for policing the academic integrity of students. Whereas BYU, you could basically start a file for your roommate if you caught them watching thirst traps, or if you catch them secretly drinking coffee, because BYU is sponsored by the LDS Church. The honor code includes behavioral standards established by the church, like caffeine intake. There's not a single drop of tea or coffee that you're going to find on the entire campus. Yeah.
So
I'm
what do you
not at
drink?
that campus.
Energy?
No, you can't even drink energy drinks. They love soda. Yeah, that's why soda shops are a big thing in Utah.
Like sugar? Just sugar
Yeah,
highs?
just straight sugar, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Adam's file is now 500 pages long. The notes on his file are dated. There are detailed notes of phone conversations between the honor code office and witnesses that are calling in to explain Adam is too predatory to be left in this university, which is a very bold statement to make. I mean, they're saying that the longer that he's a student here, the more people are in active danger. Adam and his wife, let's call her Mary, that's not her real name. She's also a student at the university. The two of them, they have a 1-year-old daughter and another baby on the way. And Mary is actually the one that starts the honor code file in her husband's name, Adam. She walks in one day and she reports that Adam, her husband, is delusional. He is controlling. He has violent tendencies. She tells the honor code office that she's concerned about her husband taking baths with their young daughter. She says it's because he's a victim of sexual abuse when he was a kid. He does not have a healthy understanding of boundaries. Again, this is what she's saying. And one time, he asked that I take the baby out of the tub. They're taking a bath together. I take the baby out of the tub, and he was trying to hide his erection. That's what Mary is claiming. She said from then on, she had to be in the bathroom at any given time that Adam was alone with any of the kids. And Mary is just scared of him now. And it's not even just Mary that Adam is scaring. Mary claims that she has this marriage counselor, a therapist. And Adam is threatening the therapist too. Like, they're both terrified of Adam. Naturally, the honor code office, they want to talk to the therapist. And she's an open book. She tells them, well, listen, Adam and Mary came in for marriage counseling. And it was very clear from the get-go. I mean, due to Adam's behaviors, it was just going to go downhill. The file reads, the therapist advised and explained that Mary wanted marriage help. At first, the story was a common theme of a wife struggling to understand her husband's problems with...
Listen, I hate people like this, honestly. You're just feeding off of this woman's, like, I'm sure she's a mom of a 1-year-old and she has another baby in the way. I'm sure she's going through some things, maybe a little mentally as well, all the hormones and everything, super influential. So you have this evil woman feeding her these things. You're like taking advantage of her mental at this point. I'm sure they came in because they had some concerns wanting to strengthen their marriage, especially now that they have kids. But you're going to see a potential victim of yours and you're just going to feed off of her. And because you love seeing people miserable. Well, told in the last video, she like hates men or something, right? And this is the same woman, the same idiot who was next to Ruby Frankie in that couch when they were talking about how being organized is like a action of like being sexual or something like that. Absolutely ridiculous. And those are some incredibly bold claims to make. Like, because there are so many cases where this is very much true. But then you have other people who like to make false claims of it. And it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, essentially. Like, why do you have to lie and fake about all this stuff? Because then there's some people who might not even believe it if it's true. Because they're like, oh yeah, just like that last person, and they turned out to be lying. It's like, it really irritates me when stuff like that happens. I don't know why there's no law put in place, or maybe there is, maybe in some states where like if you make a false claim, then you should get charged with that same claim. Because like, why are you out here trying to ruin other people's lives? That's a very serious accusation you just made.
At first, the story was a common theme of a wife struggling to understand her husband's problems with self-pleasure and porn consumption. However, the therapist quickly became alarmed because Mary had been convinced that by Adam, that whatever Adam was doing was not anything wrong, that this is just the way that men behave. The therapist states she believes Adam is manic, and with the encouragement of therapy, Mary has been trying to set boundaries and be more assertive with herself in the relationship, and Mary had, quote, began to waken up to what was acceptable behavior and how confused she had been and how off track Adam has
Waking up. She's brainwashed. This poor woman.
been. The therapist is explaining to the honor code officer, I mean, Adam is masterful at keeping Mary in this constant state of confusion. The notes continue. The therapist explained that Mary felt too threatened to comprehend or connect with the seriousness of some situations. But once Mary started putting in boundaries, Adam did not like that. And that's putting it mildly. The therapist states he's psychologically unstable. He has an intense delusional fixation on me, the therapist. And he keeps saying that I'm the Antichrist. Which sounds alarming, right? And he's violent. The therapist strongly asserts that she's just scared that the two of them have kids at home. One example that the therapist gives to the honor code office is that Adam held their infant daughter over the 3rd floor balcony, and he was just giggling. He was like, oh, holding you over the 3rd floor balcony, haha. He thought it was a funny joke. The therapist claims she would not be surprised if he does anything drastic to Mary or the kids so that they don't leave him. He is just so extremely manipulative, pathological, narcissistic, and dangerous. The therapist explains that out of all of her years, treating thousands, honestly, yeah, thousands of married couples, I've never been terrified of a client until Adam. There was this one instance where they were both in my office and I was so physically threatened by him, I had to position myself between him and the door so that I could make a hasty escape if I needed to. This was the first time in all the years that I've been a therapist that I've ever had to do that. She goes on to allege that not only has Adam Paul Steed essayed his own wife, but also their 1-year-old daughter. She states confidently with her whole chest, Adam is the most dangerous person that I have ever met in my life. He is very clearly a predator.
Wow.
That therapist's name is Jodi Hildebrandt. When
Also, the whole interaction with your kids and everything, how they had to like physically, how she quoted it, tear them apart. Like, I don't know, kids have a good sense of everything. While they don't essentially know, say if this was the case, right? And they were being, if she was being sexually essayed by her father, she would feel super weird towards her father. Like, even though they don't fully comprehend like what is happening, they know what essentially is right and what's wrong. While there could be some cases where the kid has like completely unaware and they still have like a super tight knit relationship with their perpetrator, that does not, I mean, we clearly know that's not the case here because we know this cultist is evil. Also, if you're making that strong of accusations, I'm sure somebody at the campus would have known as well, because these are a lot of really bold claims you're making. Some people are good at hiding their ugly side, but I'm sure there's a couple things in there that you just listed that can't really be hidden that well. So it doesn't seem like everyone else in the campus was talking until after these accusations came out.
When Adam first looks into Jodi, his potential new marriage therapist, he does like a quick Google search on her just to see what's going on. She is one of the most recommended therapists in the Wasatch Front of the Mormon Church for like the past 20 years, honestly.
Wow.
Her website
Years.
sounds good. It says, my style is compassionate yet direct and clear of what is necessary to fully change and champion any addictive or self-destructive behavior, whether it be ravenous addictions, feelings of inadequacy, conflicts in relationships, intimacy problems, communications and breakdowns, and frankly, block anything that prevents having and creating peace and joy.
Must be a master manipulator and gained a lot of experience over the 20 years because, and also like I mentioned, just taking the people that come to her, I'm sure they're not, majority of them maybe not in the best mindset and they're easily influenced, so it's very easy for her to brainwash them and feed them bullshit and just ruin their lives essentially. But anyone else who's gone to therapy and you just know like this therapist is like not it, like they're weird. I've had an experience like that, the two experiences like that actually. I felt like I was trying to be like they were trying to brainwash me. Legitimately, I sat there and they like kept repeating the same phrase over and over again. It's like, bro, I know what you're saying, but that's not the truth. That's not how I feel. So I immediately zipped out of there. Never went back to those therapists. Don't know why there's people like that who actually have their license.
At the bottom of her website, the banner reads, what you do is not who you are. I don't even know what that means. Her resume on paper seems great. Bachelor's in English, graduate work in educational psychology, earned a master's degree. Then she worked at Cirque Lodge, which is a nationally known drug and alcohol treatment center, which is frequently visited by celebrities. It's expensive.
Wow.
It can range from $30,000 to $100,000 to get treated for 1 month. 1 month.
Oh, I thought she was going to say
And
one
Jodi
night.
would
I
not
was
stop
like,
talking about it. She claims that she treated Paris Hilton, not for drugs, but for bad behavior at the school that, the camp, if you will, that Paris Hilton was sent to that was terrible. But
She was there, working there?
yeah, that's what she claims. Now, Adam did think that it was a little strange how little she cared to protect clients' information, but maybe it's because Paris Hilton's personal life has been all over the tabloids since forever, so it's not actually breaking any patient protection laws.
well, that's fine and all. She's a public figure and everything, like pretty much a lot her whole life. But some things, like therapy visits, shouldn't be out in the public. People shouldn't know about celebrities' personal lives, anyways.
It is weird though, and Adam
Is
did
that
think it was
legit?
weird. Besides, it's fine because Adam and Mary, they're going in for marriage counseling. They've been married for 2 years when they're recommended by a church bishop to go see Jodi. The church bishop is like, oh, that's a good one. Adam says Jodi was very charismatic right off the bat. Mary's instantly obsessed. She's really happy that she's working on herself. And Adam was just excited for his wife because he thinks maybe Jodi is a good fit. She's firm, but she seems very wise in a fun way. She doesn't mind laughing and making jokes so that the message gets delivered. I mean, for a church recommended therapist, she doesn't seem like she takes herself too seriously, at least in the beginning. As for Adam's relationship and marriage itself, there's just a lot to work through, just a lot. They're trying to balance being new parents while also being college students. They have a 1-year-old. Mary is pregnant with their second. They're both students at BYU. They're both Mormon. But for Adam's wife, she's not even just religious. It's not, oh, church on Sundays. Her dad has a very high standing in the church. So there is pressure for them to be the best LDS church members out there, which naturally is not the healthiest. Adam says that whenever he Googled something, if he even saw for like 20 seconds, okay, maybe he Googled it. Maybe he Googled a naked woman's picture for 2 seconds. And if he looked at it for 2 seconds and he had a quick lustful thought about it, he would call his wife and apologize profusely. Like you would think that he met another woman at Motel 6. He's saying, I feel terrible. What I did was terrible. This is terrible. It probably doesn't help that Adam's entire start to their marriage is just rough. All of Mary's family members hate Adam. They were against this marriage to begin with from the get-go. Adam was one of the biggest whistleblowers of the LDS church. And it's not that he turned against the faith. He's like a devout LDS member, even at that point. He was assaulted by a higher-up in the LDS church when he was a child. He was one of the first few victims to kickstart a decade-long chain of almost 93,000 victims who have come forward with essay claims against the Boy Scouts of America.
Wait, 93,000 victims?
Have come out against the Boy Scouts of America.
Insane.
Now, it gets very complicated because you're like, what does the Boy Scouts have to do with the LDS church? Adam was one of the first people to try and get some justice. So quick context, the LDS church was the largest sponsor of the Boy Scouts of America. Scouting was considered a big part of the youth development in the church. So about 1 out of every 5 Boy Scouts were of the LDS faith. They were essentially sent by the church as part of their church youth activities. Now, there are LDS higher-ups that also hold significant positions in the Boy Scouts executive board. If you are an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts, which is like the top 5% ranking, it is a badge of honor at church. So they're 2 separate organizations, but not really. They're very merged together. Adam Paul Steed grew up in the LDS church. In fact, his dad works as a seminary teacher for the church. They're very serious. When he's 14, he goes to a Boy Scouts camp in Idaho where he is essayed by a scout leader, but who also happens to be an LDS church leader named Brad Stowell. After the essay at the camp, he tries to report it to the Boy Scouts leadership. They don't care. Adam straight up calls the police himself. He's like, come get this guy. He's very brave. He's 14.
Yes.
Now, he admits, Brad Stowell admits and confesses to molesting not just Adam, but 24 boys, and he pleads guilty. He receives a dainty little 150-day jail sentence. That's about a week per boy that he abused. About a week. That's it. What kind of jail sentence is that? But how did he get away with essaying so many boys? Adam and his father, they go to the church higher-ups to report the abuse because he's also a higher-up church leader, Brad the abuser. I mean, he's not just a scout leader. He's heavily involved in the LDS church. He has a leadership position. So according to Adam, when he brings this to the church to report it, the church does practically everything to shut Adam up. Which, why? Because apparently, years prior to essaying Adam, Brad confessed to essaying a 6-year-old boy. His LDS bishop, church leader, sent him to, quote, counseling, and then later stated, you are cured, and allowed him to keep working with children. I think with any massive organization, at least, I think religion is beautiful, but sometimes it can provide ways for people that should not be around children to be around children. And that's going to happen anywhere in any religion. And I think in this situation, the chain of command, they all should be punished. I don't think that this is representative, hopefully, of the LDS church as a whole, but this whole chain of command, whoever his bishop was, I was like, you are cured, is crazy as well. No, it's alleged that even after he was, quote, cured.
One of the most common locations I hear constantly of horrible events taking place like this either churches, church organizations, or schools. Like, it's disgusting. I've definitely, as a kid, that priest does not go to that church anymore. Once I was forced to go to church when I was younger, there's just been so many situations where I'm like, I do not want to be left alone with this person. And I go around after the, what, I don't even know what it's called, this, not even ceremony, the sermon. And they like shake hands with the people who are like at the end of the bleachers. They would constantly push me to go get a handshake. I'm like, dude, I'm so uncomfortable. I don't want to shake this person's hand. They're not working there anymore. Why? I'm not exactly sure, but it was a little controversial.
Is crazy as well. Now, it's alleged that even after he was, quote, cured, there were more reports, more warning signs that people have reported, hey, this Brad guy is really creepy. But the Boy Scouts and the church, they ignore it. They even cover it up. So when Adam and his dad, they try to get justice from the church because how do you let him still be around children? The church turns around.
They do it as
and
well.
Allegedly pushes the family out. They fire Adam's dad from the church as a seminar teacher.
Wow.
And they're just pushing this issue too much. They don't like it. They feel like if other
Wow.
victims come and seek help, it's just going to start getting messy, allegedly. And Adam, this little boy, instead of getting the support that he needs, he starts getting treated like a money-hungry liar. Like he is just out here to get money from this church that has about $1 billion. I think they're worth like $1 billion, the church, yeah. Adam and his dad do not give up. There's a lot of respect, honestly, for the two of them now in the LDS community and just everywhere else. Adam and his dad not only fight tooth and nail for justice and they help other victims come forward, they fight to get laws passed. So this gives an extension of the statute of limitations for SA victims in the state of Idaho. Prior, if a child was SA'd, they would have to report the abuse before their 23rd birthday. Adam's advocating, his dad is advocating, they get a law passed in Idaho that you can report it at any point in your life now.
Wow.
There's no statute of limitations.
Big work.
Which the LDS church allegedly really hated. Really hated. Just curious, why would you not like that?
Why?
No
wonder.
accusations, just thoughts. Just kind of weird.
That's strange.
Now, even though Adam is a victim of the abuser that belonged to the LDS church, it appears nobody cared to help him. Nobody wanted to do anything. The backlash to telling the truth, demanding justice, trying to get other victims to get help, this is, I mean, his whole entire family has to relocate from Idaho to Utah because it was that bad. They were shunned.
I hate that as well. Like, especially if it's like such a huge organization who's like who's very influential as well, just has so much influence out of everybody. You go and tell the truth about this horrible thing that happened to you and to many others, and they're like, no, they're lying. They're liars. They're sinners. Hate, like, go charge at them, hate them and stuff. And that's why so many people who were victims of abuse like such as that, they just don't want to say anything. And that should not happen. That thought should not cross their mind. They should be like open and feel safe enough to confess what happened to them.
That is where Adam meets his future wife, Mary, at BYU. They get married, they have 2 kids now, and everyone is telling his wife, even before the marriage, that Adam is a terrible person. I mean, he did all of these weird, shady things to try and make money. The alleged church leader that tried to suppress Adam, President Hillem, he ran the whole Boise, Idaho temple. He was in a leadership position. He also was heavily involved with the leadership of the Boy Scouts. He did everything, allegedly, to cover up the abuse. Coincidentally, Hillem is very close friends with Mary's parents, who are also very high up in the church. So they're doing everything to try and prevent these two from getting married. When Adam heard that his fiance's family hated him, he said, I was depressed for a couple of days. And then I remember just being like triggered because I was a victim of child abuse. And
Right.
I just remember thinking, I'm not. I mean, I don't have problems. I'm not like that. I'm a good person. And I remember some terrible moment. I went online and I looked at Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And then I called my bishop and I went into this repentance process. I called my wife. I told her I wasn't worthy to get married. But nevertheless, the two get married, they have a 1-year-old, and now she's pregnant with their second child, and their lives are about to get harder, so they need guidance. It is natural to seek help. It's admirable to seek help. They get referred to Jodi Hildebrandt, and that's when everything starts falling apart. At first, the changes are really small, but Adam does notice it.
So Jodi likely knew Adam's history, like this whole thing.
Yes,
And
and-
she's involved with all these leaders, right?
Yes, and she wasn't as involved with all these higher ups, but it's alleged that she saw Mary as a way to get even more influence in the LDS church.
I see.
Adam says his wife would just confront him all the time, just out of nowhere, confronting him with abstract things, like very vague accusations. You're in self-denial about your own addiction. What does that even mean? Adam says, I just have a million questions. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. What addiction are we I was never diagnosed with any sort of addiction, nor was I actively struggling with one. Sure, he has PTSD from the abuse he suffered as a child, but what the hell is his wife on about? But Jodi starts telling them that everyone has an addiction. Every single person has an addiction. Whether it's food or reading the Book of Mormon too much. Yeah, you can do that apparently. Every single person has an addiction. She's explaining to these marriage counseling classes that Adam and his wife are a part of that every action that you have comes from addiction. It's rooted in addiction. Most of the time, you don't even know that. It is the cause of every action that you take. Are you jealous about your friend doing something? It's an addiction that's causing the jealousy. Are you gaining a few pounds on vacation because the food is delicious? No, it's actually an addiction.
How do people in these classes hear this and continue to sit in there and listen to this BS? Because just listening to this, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I drink water. It's an addiction. It's rooted into addiction. I sit here and watch true crime cases. It's an addiction. It's rooted into addiction. You're a sinner. You're evil. Your life must be turned upside down, bruh. I walk out of the classroom, or I'd sit and listen to it because it might be comedic.
It may not be obvious at first, but that's what Jodi's here for, right? To get to the bottom of your addiction. For example, Jodi would teach if you have to spend time not thinking about something, like a picture of a naked person, the fact that you have to not think about that proves that you're an addict. In other words, all this resistance of white knuckling not to think about the magazine on the aisle of the grocery store, the fact that you have to not think about it means you're a sex addict. Which, by the way, she's talking about like Playboy magazine. She's not even talking about Hustler magazine. Another huge belief that Jodi teaches her married couples is, from the beginning, Jodi tells every single married couple, relationships have to die so that it can be reborn again. It's like a resurrection.
How do you do that?
Separation. It's the concept of only
you come back
if
together.
your relationship dies. Only then can it be reborn. It kind of makes sense. Adam says because of the worship of Christ and his resurrection in the LDS faith, in theory, this whole theory of relationships dying is almost too perfect.
I wonder if we're going to get, I mean, there's 2 other videos she's going to talk about. So I wonder if at some point she's going to maybe touch up on, what was her name? Jodi? Jodi's like a background and how she kind of grew up. Because I wonder if she's like projecting on what she experienced. Like, is she a sex addict? Like, is she's just projecting all her issues onto other people?
But
Or
Adam
is she
soon
just
realizes,
mentally insane?
quote, if the relationship or marriage didn't die on its own, Jodi would kill the relationship in any sociopathic way alive. After a few weeks of being in a big group setting with a bunch of married couples and Jodi, now it's time to graduate to the next step, split the couples up. Husbands go off into the men's counseling group, wives go off into the women's counseling group, and that's where things just start going off the rails, bonkers. Adam is placed in a group setting with other husbands. Jodi is leading it. These other husbands, week after week, are just confessing in the man's group. They're just confessing to the most heinous predatory crimes. They're confessing to having thoughts about SA, child abuse, incest. Adam is traumatized. He's a victim of CSA. He does not feel safe in this group, but Jodi does not care. She tells him, actually, you're on the same level as these people. He's like, no, I'm not. I don't have predatory thoughts. These people are predators because they're confessing to these predatory thoughts. I'm a victim of CSA. I feel triggered when I'm in this group. She's like, no, you're in denial. You're just as bad. I'm going to help you see the truth. This escalates until 3 weeks after giving birth. Adam's wife is understandably in a very sensitive state. She's vulnerable. Adam says Jodi starts digging her claws just deeper. She starts helping Adam's wife identify how she's the victim. Mary was likely very confused. Like, what do you mean I'm the victim? It's the, oh, sweetie, you just don't know it yet. That's what Jodi's saying. Jodi would tell Mary that she had been conditioned by Adam to believe that a husband who looks at a naked picture here and there is normal. It's not normal. It's basically the same level as cheating or domestic violence, if not worse.
Wow.
So of course you cannot trust him
Wow.
around your kids. She's trying to tell Mary it's the same as if Adam killed someone, you know? Would you forgive him and just hope that he doesn't kill someone else? Or maybe doesn't kill you or your baby?
Jeez.
Adam is so taken aback to be treated like a predator. I mean, he had to uproot his whole life after being victimized as a child, and he's still trying to work through the trauma, and his own wife is treating him like a perpetrator. Mary eventually tells Adam, it's your addiction, you just don't see it. Side note, Adam has only seen about 2 hours of porn in his entire life, but his wife is acting like he is an addict of these videos. Mary tells Adam that he was never a victim of child essay.
The wife is telling him?
That never happened to you. You're in denial
How are you gonna
because you
tell
have
me?
an addiction. You made up that story because you have an addiction. By this point, Adam is trying to convince his wife, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. I'm not an addict, especially not for sex. And she knows that he would never lie about what happened to him. So in this desperate attempt to try and save his marriage, Adam agrees to his wife's conditions on how to save their relationship, which is they need to break the relationship so it can be resurrected, remember? Jodi instructs them that they cannot talk to each other. They can only talk to each other in a group setting, and they need to break the relationship in order to rebuild it. Adam suggests getting a second opinion because what kind of crazy therapist even
Right?
suggests that as a marriage therapist? But Jodi tells him, see, that's your addiction speaking. The addiction knows that you are solving your addiction by coming to me. Of course, the addiction doesn't want you to keep going to me. Addiction is a parasite and it wants to keep being fed. Mary rejects his idea. She's like, no, I'm going with Jodi. Now, again, this is just from Adam's perspective. Mary has not said her side of the story, but it seems like there are, I mean, he's got files of evidence. He was on a big podcast called Mormon Stories.
I wonder if he ever got reunited with his daughter, or if there's still like some paperwork like filed against him. Like, no, you can't come near any young kids anymore for the rest of your life. But where with her doing this for like 20 years, so there's like some people like this man here, I forgot his name, but this man here who has some brain and common sense. I wonder if there's like been a handful of times these people have run into Jodi, and if they can go to anybody and like file a complaint about her, because the accusations and advices that she's giving are so extreme, and it's like all over the place. Like some of these connections that she's throwing, some of these accusations she's throwing out there have no connection to anything else. So I wonder how she's just been able to get away with it for so long, or if there has been like reports on her and she's just been able to get away with it because of the position that she's able to put herself in.
Where they've been really covering the Jodi Hildebrandt Ruby Frankie case. That 5-hour-long interview with Mormon Stories with Adam has been taken down due to a court order. So it's a little.
Why? How so? What's going on?
There are speculations that Mary did not like being spoken about, but Mormon Stories, when Adam went on there, he gave every single file that he had, police reports, the 500-page honor code office file. He gave lawyer statements, every court order. He gave everything. He gave Jodi Hildebrandt's therapy notes that he subpoenaed. He gave everything. So it's still alleged, but I just putting that out there. Now, Mary allegedly rejects this idea. From this point forward, she says, we're not going to really live together. Like, we're going to live together in the same apartment because we have 2 kids together, but we're not going to speak unless Jodi is present. She even goes as far to allegedly give Adam a letter that says, "As of today, I am no longer willing to take upon me the responsibilities that come with being your spouse. I set the following in boundaries in order to protect myself from expectations that are not being met in this relationship. I will no longer do these things for you as a wife. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, dishes, picking up stuff after you, reminding you of any of your responsibilities or appointments, assisting you in your schoolwork, spending family time, sharing intimacy, sharing a bed, engaging in any kind of physical touch beyond the social acceptable boundaries of friends. I will consent to share our apartment as living space. I will consider to have my responsibility to take care of myself and our 2 children, and I will not consider it my duty to inform you of my daily activities or plans." They have no physical, emotional, mental, or even verbal contact for weeks. And then one day, out of the blue, allegedly, Mary, the wife, asks Adam to give their baby a bath. So he goes, gives the baby a bath, and he says, quote, "She totally walks into the bathroom in her lingerie." Like, I just remember thinking, oh my God, she's finally listened to me. We're gonna get back to our normal life and stuff. And she starts teasing me and acting like she was gonna hop in the tub with me, and I'm holding our baby, our 1-year-old. And I was like, hey, you gotta get the baby out of the tub. And I'm laughing, thinking it's funny. She leaves with the baby. She comes back into the bathroom, looks at me. She looks at my private parts, and then she looks at me in disgust and just turns her back and walks away.
That is wild. What is going on?
That is the alleged honor code reporting of he had an erection in the bathtub.
But even if it's true, then this whole thing is
like a setup. It's in
It's a setup, essentially, yes. You just conveniently left out the part where you walked in lingerie and just made it seem like he had an erection while bathing their daughter. That's insane. That just slipped your mind. Wow.
Is if yeah.
But even why is that even necessary to, I don't know. It's weird.
This bathroom incident, the motives behind it become even clearer later. But Mary, his wife, is turning into a little soldier for Jodi, is what it appears to be. Adam doesn't even recognize her anymore. For example, Adam and his wife had this trip planned to go to Yellowstone. They're bringing some friends there, one couple from Brazil. They just had a baby, the couple from Brazil, and they don't have much money because they're exchange students on top of all of this. So Adam really wants to do something special for the Brazilian couple, and he's like, oh, we're gonna go on this trip and I'm gonna help you guys pay for it. Like, I will pay for all the food on the trip. It's a big moment for Adam to be able to finally do something like this and to, I don't know, do something special for his friends. But when they get to Yellowstone, Adam promised his wife that they were going to stay within an entire budget for the entire trip. Now, I believe most of the money that they were spending was Adam's. He did get settlement money from the Boy Scouts of America, but it wasn't a lot. It's not like he's rolling in it. And he also does not spend lavishly. At this point, he's hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because of Jodi.
At this point?
So at this point today.
Oh, today.
Yes.
Okay.
Still.
But at this point, when they're in Yellowstone, he has a little bit of money and he doesn't spend it lavishly. And this is one of the times that he just wants to spend money on his friends. Like, this is a good reason to spend money. They realize when they get to Yellowstone that all the food prices are astronomical there because it's a tourist zone. Everyone is hiking up the prices of all the food. Adam says it's fine, but Mary starts freaking out, telling him that he is violating the boundaries of their relationship because he wants to feed his friends. He says, I remember driving like 4 hours around Yellowstone trying to find a grocery store that was cheap enough so that we could feed my friends and her baby was crying. And finally I got so upset. I said, I can't listen. I have to do this. And my wife was screaming at me. I went into the grocery store and I bought a bunch of food to feed all of us with, and her newborn baby that was crying. I mean, they were just humiliated. Adam is like, I don't know who this woman is, but it's not my wife, Mary, and I'm going to get my wife back. But 3 phone calls is what ruins everything. The first call to the police happens after a big fight between Adam and Mary. Mary is on the phone with the police, frantically telling them that her husband is physically abusive. Okay, ma'am, what's going on? What happened? He violated the boundaries of the relationship of the marriage. What did he do? He left his backpack on the couch. A few things. I mean, one, the police were just like mouth agape, shocked. Secondly, I think this goes to show how far off the deep end Jodi has Mary, because to confidently call the police and say that this is a transgression, that is an act of domestic violence, if not comparable, Like, you cannot be in a place where your brain is functioning normally. That's how bad things are. She genuinely believes the cops are going to handcuff Adam, log in his little backpack into evidence. It doesn't even make sense. The next day, Mary calls the police again on Adam. This time, she allegedly states that he physically abused her by pushing against her, which is very interesting wording. Like, did he push you? What do you mean he pushed against you? She states, yeah, well, I was standing here by the door. And they ask, were you blocking him from being able to leave the apartment? Well, yeah. Did he hurt you? No. The police leave because Adam has been incredibly patient during all of this, but he finally decides, okay, that was the second time. I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, you got to stop calling the police on me. You're publicly humiliating me. I mean, not even if the police do anything, a lot of people are just going to assume that he's violent and abusive and that the police are just being incompetent. So Adam decides he's just going to get his life back. And that means sleeping on his own bed for once. He had been sleeping on the couch. He says, I paid for the house. I paid for the apartment. So I went into my bedroom and I slept on my bed. I said to my wife, if you don't want to sleep next to me, you don't have to, but I'm not going to sleep on the floor or the couch anymore. He was just tired of being treated like this subhuman being. Adam's wife calls the police and states that Adam attempted to essay her that night. What did he do? She says, well, she felt like he might essay her. The police don't do anything because, again, it's not a threat. He didn't say it. He didn't try it. All he did was sleep in his own bed that he has every right to, and she was just having a feeling. When this does not work the way that Mary and allegedly Jodi likely intended, Mary just disappears with their 2 kids for a little bit. Now, again, this is alleged at this point. I think, like any video, you have to come up with your own conclusions, do your own research, listen to Adam share his story, and Mary has not publicly spoken out about it, so but you get it. Now, Adam's 1-year-old baby, 3-week-old baby, his wife, they're just gone. So after a few days, he files a police report because he thought they'd been kidnapped. And Adam says he went and talked to Jodi about what was happening and how heartbroken he was and what's going on with the kids and Mary. And he says, I just remember being in this agonizing pain, feeling it intensely. And I remember looking over at Jodi and she was smiling. Her cheeks were blushing.
She's like, my plan.
So at this point,
Fell
he's
into
not
place.
resentful of Jodi yet, right? Does he think something is wrong with Jodi as well, or?
It's like a mixture of, he knows that Jodi is telling her a lot of things clearly that aren't making sense, but at this point, he's kind of confused more than anything.
I get it.
He doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes between Jodi and Mary, but it's just confusing. So from there, Adam's wife starts reporting Adam for actually trying to abuse her and the kids, likely just making up insane stories that Jodi is feeding her. She gets a protective order against Adam and lures him to meet up with her afterwards. So he gets served this temporary protective order. And then she's like, hey, come meet up with me because I like you. Like, maybe we can work this out.
But he will be in bigger trouble, right?
He goes and she reports him for breaking the protective order. She's also going to the BYU Honor Code office to report him for violent and predatory behavior. So not only is Adam facing expulsion from college, he's facing a likely divorce and 20 years in prison for breaking his protective order. He's trying to tell his church leader, you have to help my family. I mean, you have to read through these files because none of this is true. Like, this protective order is not true. I don't know what's going on. To which the bishop just responds, a woman doesn't just run away from her husband unless there's something. Adam is just looking at him shocked. Like, what are you talking about? You know me. The bishop is just staring at Adam. Do I know you? What? Are you talking about, like, you think I'm like physically violent or I'm sexually abusing her? He says, the bishop smiles. The fact that you just said that makes me know that you're guilty of those things.
What?
It is like every single person in Adam's life had just decided to turn him into the devil. He starts looking online trying to figure out what Jodi's problem is, why is she suddenly on this warpath to kind of destroy his entire life, and reviews for Jodi Hildebrandt, the negative ones, read, she reminds me of an abuser in an abusive relationship. She isolates her clients by setting up unrealistic expectations so they believe all their friends and family are toxic, leaving them to only depend on her and her, quote, support phone calls. It makes me sad to think about how many relationships she has poorly hurt. Another, she's not worthy to be trusted with your marriage or relationships. My wife went to her counseling and classes, and the main result was that Miss Hildebrandt brainwashed my wife that I had an addiction when I did not. My wife was so certain that I was hiding something as a result of this woman's lies that we had to go to an honest counselor to help dispel the dishonesty that Jodi Hildebrandt had told my wife. Do not go to this woman. Go to a specialist who respects both members of the marriage and does not spread so-called empowering lies. And another, I have a very different history with Jodi than most. I'm a pretty well-known therapist, and I trained under Jodi Hildebrandt for a year. As I trained under her, I saw her tear apart families and destroy relationships. I believe she is truly evil, and I don't say that lightly. I have done so much therapy for people coming out of her, quote, cult, who were traumatized by her therapy. I don't have an axe to grind, but I am tired of people getting hurt by her work. I'm reluctant to speak out against colleagues and other therapists. However, I wouldn't mind somehow, some way helping people see how dangerous this woman is. But nobody is willing to listen to Adam or anybody else that has said anything negative about Jodi. Adam was referred to Jodi by the bishop from the church. Jodi works as a therapist for this massive company called Lifestar, which, side note, the bishop, the church bishop that recommends Adam to Jodi, the bishop's brother owns that chapter of Lifestar, which is already a massive conflict of interest. It just adds to all the foul characters in this case. Because the sick part is, Adam gets money from the settlement from his abuse case for things like therapy, and the bishop knows that, and it's like he's thinking, well, why not give that money to my brother by going to his business where they employ a bunch of therapists? And it's not cheap or affordable. It's like $500 a week per person. And that's not even individualized therapy. That's to join a men's group with a bunch of other husbands. And then you have personal sessions that you have to pay for. That's 1 to 2 additional sessions per week. Between Adam and his wife, Mary, they're spending thousands of dollars per month to work with Jodi. Lifestar itself has its own controversies. It's known for being a network of LDS therapists, and some have said, if you go to Lifestar and you've ever seen like a naked body depicted on any sort of media, God forbid that you've ever watched explicit videos, you're an addict and you're gonna need to enter a lengthy 12-step program. Many therapists in the network also believe that if you ever self-pleasure, you are technically cheating on your partner. And this is a grave instance of infidelity and you need to join a support group. There have also been accusations against Lifestar that they will, if you have health insurance, they will diagnose you with an actual DSM-5 recognized diagnosis, because porn addiction is not one. I know that a lot of people do struggle with it, but porn addiction is technically not one. So they'll diagnose you with other things in the DSM-5 so that your insurance will pay for it. Allegedly, that is the accusation that has been levied upon them multiple times by internet users. Which, side note, I think it's fine if someone believes it's not in their beliefs to take part in self-pleasure or consumption of explicit materials. I think we should respect everybody's choice, especially, only if they're adults, right? But to actively go around shaming everyone, condemning them to the deepest, darkest depths of hell for doing it, I think causes more harm. And for Adam, it was kind of like that. There was this never-ending idea that self-pleasure is one of the greatest evils in the world, like right up there with murder. He says, there was a lot of guilt and shame behind self-pleasuring and explicit material in the church. I had a lot of guilt and shame. As a kid growing up, I discovered self-pleasuring a few weeks before I met Brad, and just on my own, quietly. From then on, I just always believed that God had sent this pedo into my life to punish me because I was sick. So that's how ingrained and how damaging it is, that it made him believe that he deserved to be a victim of SA. As punishment. And now he's recommended by the church to Jodi, and she's telling him that he was never abused, that he's the addict here, the bad one. And now he has to show up to court to refute accusations against him about the whole bathtub incident. He thinks the whole thing is crazy. Mary walked in with lingerie. He wanted her to put the baby to sleep so that they can have consensual adult time, and she accuses him of CSA of his own child. He is a victim of CSA. He walks into court and the worst conflict of interest is sitting right there. Right next to Mary, there's Jodi Hildebrandt, the therapist, but also Elder Halam, the higher up in the LDS church that when Adam was 14, he tried to allegedly shut Adam up for the abuse that he suffered. Then later, he tried to prevent Adam from marrying Mary. He's just sitting right there, right next to Jodi Hildebrandt. Which, you know what, with all disrespect, we hate Elder Halam. And unfortunately, if you want to send him a non-threatening but scathing message of how his soul will burn in the depths of hell for the rest of eternity, he's dead. Fortunately, he's probably there burning.
Why is he there? They just all kind
Yeah.
of linked up and...
Exactly. Adam is facing 4 felony charges. Each is a 3rd degree for violation of a protective order, domestic violence enhancement. And Adam states these are all the lies. He has to now spend $250,000, go through all this trauma, fighting all these allegations just to plead guilty to an attempt to break a protective order, which is a misdemeanor. He had to pay a fine, no jail time. He did spend like a few days in jail because they briefly arrested him right when he broke the protective order. But he technically pled guilty, which means everyone in Utah and the church thinks that he's this crazy abuser that was never abused as a kid, just creating chaos wherever he goes. But later, they will find evidence that some really dark things were happening between Mary and Jodi. They allegedly found evidence that they were trying to manufacture evidence on Mary and Adam's child to accuse Adam of SA. So remember the incident in the bathroom? They were trying to enhance that with evidence, allegedly.
Just gonna say the way I was gonna word it though kind of sounded like I was applying this to every single victim of abuse. But isn't it a lot of the times they ask for like evidence of the abuse, especially if they have records of what was her name, the wife, calling like at least 2 more times before the attempted essay, or what, maybe 2 or 3 times she's had like loony, kooky phone calls about leaving a backpack there. He's threatening her. He pushed up beside her. Like, I would be like, I don't know. She's had a history of these weird accusations. And I'm not saying that to put shame on the wife. Like, she's clearly a victim herself. But just to take word as that, like, yes, he's an abuser, he's a pedo, and he deserves all of this punishment. But there's nothing truly put forward to support those claims besides Jodi's word. The therapist does have a certain extent like of influence of like evidence to an extent, but I don't think they should just take her words because they are extreme and be like, yes, this is the evidence and he is a pedo and should be charged as such.
What did they find? Like text messages?
Obviously, these are not available to the public. Just descriptions of it make it seem like there is evidence that shows Jodi and Mary trying to get the daughter to pose in a way and to say, like, daddy did this to me. Training her, if you will, allegedly. Mary and her attorneys used Adam's psych evaluation that showed how bad the abuse he endured in childhood was. They used those documents to now try and take his children away from him. So, side note, they also just go around showing his documents to everyone, just with extensive details of the trauma he endured, just letting everyone read it like it's book club. And Adam says, the worst part is they used it against him to say that he's not fit to be a dad. He says, think about it. A victim comes forward, tells the truth about the hell and the trauma. Maybe he's a decent person, but this is really traumatic, and they use it to punish me, try and take the kids away. He says they kept arguing that because I was a victim of sexual abuse, I wasn't able to be a safe parent. They twisted it into something heinous to just stab him with. Now, an additional side note, Mary at one point accuses Adam of being gay, which in itself is obviously not offensive. But Adam has SA trauma from when he was a child, and it's likely that he has a very complicated relationship, or did have a complicated relationship with his sexuality, because he was abused by a monster who happened to be male. And being from a faith that typically condemns gay relationships, it's likely further complicated things for Adam as a victim. There was just no bar too low, no bar in hell too low for Jodi and Adam's now ex-wife, Mary, to just target Adam. Emails between Jodi and Mary were uncovered in Adam's fight to exonerate himself from the accusations. So the two, Mary and her therapist Jodi, are writing to each other about the contract that Mary is going to give Adam. They're going back and forth of like, oh, you should say we're living together but technically separate. This is crazy. Mary emails Jodi, I wrote up this contract yesterday afternoon after our meeting. It's still a work in progress. I'm open for any suggestions. Thanks. Jodi responds, this looks good. The more specific you can be, the better. But this looks good as a starting point. I will share this with him this evening if you would like. They later add stipulations that Adam cannot withhold funds from his wife and that he is not allowed to see any other therapist outside of Jodi.
What? What? Stripping me from a lot of my rights.
Now, side note, since we're here, fuck the honor code at BYU. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Adam had a few friends targeted
Don't
by
be
the
sorry.
BYU honor code office just because they were friends with Adam, allegedly. One female friend was called in because Mary reported her for adultery with Adam since their divorce had not finalized yet. She was asked about extensive... Okay, so this female friend of Adam's is also a survivor of CSA. The honor code office asked her for hours, grilled her about the essay that happened to her during her childhood. We don't even know how they knew about it. She never told the honor code office that, so maybe they got church records, church files about it, which is crazy. She was interrogated over her past trauma. Then she was accused of having an adulterous affair with Adam, to which she adamantly denied. But they called in Mary, Adam's wife, and she confirms, no, I know they're adulterers, okay? They're having an affair. To which point, the honor code office is trying to ask, like, do you know what adultery is, right? Like, it's when people do it, like they're having physical relationships. Mary just responds, oh, well, then maybe they didn't have an affair. Maybe it was just spiritual and emotional.
What are we doing here? What is this BS? Why are you wasting our time? These accusations you're throwing out here, honey, is insane.
The next friend targeted by the honor code office is Seth, one of Adam's best friends. Now, by this point, it feels like anyone who is friendly with Adam is going to suffer too. Truly, to try and alienate him is what I think. Adam was sharing custody over the kids. Not legally, but I think it was more so agreed upon. And Seth came with him to see Mary. Mary grabs, allegedly, a giant shell the size of a cinder block and throws it at Adam. He quickly dodges because he's holding their baby in his arms, and Seth wrote a statement about it to the honor code office saying, hey, you know how everyone is reporting Adam? Well, guess what? Mary just tried to kill him. Maybe not that dramatically, but you get the point. They turn around and the honor code starts questioning him if he's a sex addict. Also, Seth is a chef. He cooks with wine sometimes, as one does. They accused him of hiding an alcohol problem and being addicted to sex. They told Seth if he keeps hanging around Adam, they will kick him out of the university. They go after like 5 of Adam's friends for, again, the sole reason that Adam is around them. And also, at one point, the BYU police sent by the honor code office came and grilled, interrogated Adam for about 2 hours, asking incredibly intense questions about the abuse he suffered when he was 14. What does that have to do with anything? But it was traumatizing. He said, I felt so filthy and gross after that. It seems like the honor code office did not realize that Adam could subpoena their records, which he does. Adam says he will never forget the day that he was accused of essay of his own child. He says, how I couldn't even breathe. I mean, I had a panic attack in the parking lot afterwards. So there's a clear conflict of interest everywhere here. He subpoenas the BYU honor code files on him, which Jodi clearly breaks patient confidentiality by talking to them about Adam. But not only that, she has nothing to back up any accusations, suspicions, or statements that she has uttered about Adam. He
Just
subpoenas
her
her
word.
therapy case notes, and the case notes about Adam, whom Jodi Hildebrandt has reported for being this sexual predator, one of the most dangerous people that she's ever met, that he's R-wording not only his wife but his 1-year-old daughter. He's so
Where's
sick
the
and twisted and so
evidence?
great at manipulation that he is an active danger to the public. You would think Jodi has 2 novel-length spiral notebooks on him detailing his sick perversions, but when he gets her notes, it's like this long. It's 1 page, not even. Adam is in here for marriage counseling, has some sexual issues that he wants to work on, aka staring 20 seconds too long at a picture of an unclothed woman on the internet. That's about
So
it.
these are being used in court.
Yeah, because he's like, I mean, this is not a good therapist. Like this is crazy. She's levying all these accusations against me, and these are her notes on me. Like, I've told her nothing. She wasn't even Adam's personal therapist. He was part of group sessions.
Hey, so Judge, you're hearing all these accusations, but then you get presented with this one tiny little slip of paper, and it'll be like, all right, all of you guys are crazy. Leave this poor man alone. Like, everyone in this environment is brainwashed. Like, what is everyone talking about? Like, everyone else, no, like, I keep forgetting their names. The husband and his friend group are the problems for, like, everyone's just reaching at straws. Any little thing, they're just reaching for everything to make them a a perpetrator. Like, oh, you're a chef, you sometimes cook with wine. Alcoholism, you have an alcohol problem, you're an addict.
But he never really sat with her one-on-one.
Wow.
So he's like, suddenly you're just coming out accusing me of like the world's most heinous crimes out of the gate for no reason at all. There are also logs of emails between Jodi and Mary where they collude on how to take Adam down, allegedly. There are emails of Jodi coaching Mary on how to talk to authorities to make Adam look worse. It's not even just like, say this, but she's all present things as an inquiry, not in anger. When you present things to authorities, she's coaching her on her tone, her delivery. She writes, give the authorities the right thinking because they're not going to come up with those thoughts themselves. It's difficult when you begin to see what is really going on, to be patient with those who don't. Be direct and act inquisitive, not angry or defensive. Make them think that they came up with the idea themselves. Mary would email back, those suckers, they totally fell for it. Ultimately, Adam would not get custody of his kids, although he's in their lives now. Netizens theorize it's mainly because
nice.
Mary and Jodi are no longer in each other's lives, and Mary allegedly wants to focus on dating rather than her kids. So it's just better for Adam to take care of the kids, I guess, allegedly from her perspective. So he is
Wow.
in the kids' lives, but he doesn't have custody as of right now. He was also placed in jail for 7 days for breaking that restraining order. He was kicked out of university. He was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from legal fees. His reputation has been ruined. He has much more extensive PTSD than before his entire life was derailed by Jodi Hildebrandt. I mean, the magnitude of courage and empathy that Adam has is pretty awe-inspiring. Even when talking about this incident on the Since Taken Down podcast by Mormon Stories, he never really blames his wife. He expresses a lot of pain and betrayal from her, but he actually shows a lot of understanding for her. He believes that Jodi told his wife about all these unhinged, deviant crimes that Adam was allegedly committing, which he wasn't, which Adam has denied all of them to his wife, but she just thought he was lying. Adam says Jodi would just have everybody just chopping off all the arms of support in their life until there was no one left to support you except for Jodi Hildebrandt. Adam says Jodi Hildebrandt is like Ted Bundy. She is completely pathological, and that lady is going straight to hell.
He's not suing Jodi or going after her?
No, he hopefully he will, but he thought about going after BYU. They admitted him back into the school, but he didn't have time or money to hire babysitters or time for anything at that point. He was also too traumatized to go back to BYU. He thought about suing BYU. He asked, how would the settlement be paid?
He has an attorney.
He asked the assistant dean of BYU, I believe. And she said it would be paid using tithes, which is offerings from the church. And those are supposed to be used to help people that need it. And he said then he didn't want to sue. So he says Jodi is going straight to hell. And there's a road to hell, actually. It's called Hellhole Pass Road. Yeah, Hellhole Pass Road. That's the road name. It's dry. It's hot. It's like hell. The road runs through the Beaver Dam Mountains. On both sides of the road, you just see mountains, dry red rock mountains and desert scrub bushes. The road is gravel. It's completely uneven, and there's usually not a lot of cars going up and down the road. I mean, one does not choose to drive up and down Hellhole Road for fun. except for Jodi Hildebrandt. She likes to bring her niece to Hellhole Pass Road, her 14-year-old niece, and make them run up and down. Run up and down the road until I tell you to stop. I don't care that it's 100 degrees in Utah. You have no shade, no water. Just run. Run for your sins or you'll go to hell. Licensed therapist Jodi Hildebrandt has taken on the courageous task of helping her 14-year-old niece, Jessie, who goes by they, them pronouns, by the way. This is before Adam Paul Steed. They were also interviewed by Mormon Stories.
How old is
Jodi at the time, she was much younger.
not Jodi, the niece?
They were 14 when they first got taken in by Jodi.
What about today?
Today, they're probably...
Fully adults,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
Now, Jodi is itching for a big project, and Jessie is her biggest one yet. Jessie is probably one of the biggest sinners that Jodi has ever laid eyes on. What is the grave sin that they committed? Being too Mormon. Jessie, now adult, tells Mormon Stories podcast during an interview.
I've always been a very curious person and always, I think, very challenging in that way.
So both of their parents are super religious in the LDS faith and obviously very well connected. Jodi is Jessie Hildebrandt's aunt. Jessie's father is Jodi's brother, who also happens to be an attorney. So Jessie's father is Jodi Hildebrandt's brother, and Jessie's father is an attorney. They say that they had a very typical, strict, conservative, LDS faith-filled upbringing. They say, this is talking about Jessie's mom. My mom is very docile, sweet, obedient, very efficient housewife. I mean, everything was always very clean and very organized and very efficient. I think I was kind of a wrecking ball to them, always asking why about everything. No answer was good enough, and it wasn't coming from a place of disrespect. It was genuinely, I didn't understand, and I was very curious about things. In Jessie's mind, this is true. The LDS faith is true. The Book of Mormon is true. Their entire family are devout LDS church members. Their logic is true. And they're thinking, I just need to find all of the supporting evidence to back it up now. I know a few people like that as well. Like they grew up in super religious, you can't watch Marvel movies because they're not rooted in faith. And there are just certain people that grow up like that but still want to know, but why?
I've always tried to have, well, not tried to have that discussion. I always thought about that a few times whenever topics such as these come up. I know some kids are born into a really, really religious family, but I've heard stories of like families who are super religious, but they don't want to essentially force their kid into that religion. Like they might bring them to church and stuff and grow up in that environment, but ultimately they're not going to be like, you will be a member of this church. It's like, hey, once you can make up your own thoughts and opinions, decision making, like that's up to you. Do you want to continue into this religion? Do you believe in it? Do you like it? If yes, awesome. If not, then that is your decision. But then there's so many other families that are like, no, F that. You have no rights and opinions. You will be a member of this church.
It's not that they're trying to be mean. It's not that they're like, I don't believe in this. It's just they want to know why for everything. I feel like you're kind of like that. You always ask why for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're challenging anything. Their brain just
Curiosity.
functions in a way where they want to know the reasoning behind every single thing that's done. Every tradition, there must be a reason for it. So Jessie says, asking questions, especially maybe higher esoteric unanswerable questions or questions that point out skeletons. Why weren't Black people allowed to have priesthood? Why weren't they allowed to be at the church for the longest time? What about sexism? What about race? Those types of questions you don't ask. You don't talk about it.
So this podcast also, are they dedicated to, are they
Mormon Stories. I believe the host, I don't think they're ex-Mormons. I think they've been excommunicated, but still hold a degree of faith. I think that they just don't like the established religious aspect. So they interview a lot of ex-Mormons or current Mormons and talk about their experience with maybe things that have been happening in the church that you're not technically supposed to talk about.
I see.
Yeah, they're a great resource, I think. Now, it's not like Jesse is challenging their parents for the sake of trying to prove them wrong or rebelling against the religion in a snarky teenager kind of way. Jesse says, by the time I was 16, I had read the Book of Mormon 6 times. I believed it. So in my head, this is true. My logic was just backwards. I started with the belief, or I was like, okay, this is true, so I will find the evidence to support it instead of following the evidence to the eventual truth. But also, I was a total nerd. And then, you know, the ADHD, you know, they say that they have ADHD and they say this was a hyperfixation. And then the layer of wanting familial acceptance, it's very powerful. I was emotional. I was strong-willed. I questioned everything. And neither one of my parents, I think, knew what to do with that. They were not prepared because of the culture of the church. Jesse also likes to experiment with their clothes and makeup, which makes everyone in their family freak out. Like as if they had just brought home a 2-headed seal and said, this is my new best friend. Yeah. Jesse gets ambushed at a family gathering. They're all gathered at Jesse's grandparents' home. So this is Jodi's parents' home. Mm-hmm. And Jodi happens to be there because Jodi is Jesse's aunt. This is Jesse's father's home. When everyone leaves, including Jesse's parents, Jesse didn't even know that their parents had left. Jesse was down in the basement. They just left them. Yeah. It's just Jodi and their grandparents.
And it was Jodi and my grandparents telling me that my family had left and I wasn't going with them and that my life was about to change pretty dramatically. I still remember that moment as just, it's completely galvanized itself onto my soul. It was, you know, in movies when they do they zoom in and pull out at the same time, it was like that really wild kind of effect. That's how it felt. And yeah, everything changed in that moment.
And they sit them down and explain that their life is going to change forever. Jesse will not be going home. Jesse will be going with Jodi, and Jodi is going to fix them.
Because Jesse asked too many questions that they can't answer.
Yes. And Jesse likes to wear strong eyeliner and not super feminine, modest clothing. And how do they fix Jesse? By making them sleep out on the balcony in the middle of winter. This is January in Utah. Nighttime temperatures are anywhere between 8 to 30 degrees. Sometimes it can be, in the rural areas, drop to 0 degrees. All Jesse would get to sleep on the balcony every single night would be this flimsy $5 sleeping bag from Walmart. The risk of hypothermia is significant, but Jodi does not care. She even lies to Jesse's parents, telling them that Jesse was given this high-end sub-zero type of sleeping bag. This just feels extreme. Why are we putting a 14-year-old through this? Jodi would tell Jesse that this is the start of getting Jesse to confess to their sins and addictions. Jodi is saying, Jesse, you are in denial. You have not come to terms with how evil you are yet. Jesse has ADHD, and at the time when they were 14, it was undiagnosed. Jodi would sit there watching Jesse. If Jesse moves their hand back and forth, or if they tap their feet, Jodi would snap, look at you. Look at you. You're tapping your foot because your body is so full of shame. So much shame is in there, and it has nowhere to go in that little body. So it comes out like this by you tapping your foot. This is all the shame just itching to leave. Like I said, if you are angry, if you are depressed, if you are anything, it's all a result of shame. Shame is the cause. Shame is the result of sin. Sin causes shame. Shame causes mental health issues. Your body and spirit are full of shame. What I am doing for you is to make you physically so uncomfortable that it forces the sin out. Just remember a lot of this verbiage because it comes up in the next episode. This comes up when Jodi is torturing Ruby Frankie's kids. I have to make you so physically uncomfortable that it forces the sin out. Eventually, Jodi moves Jesse in from sleeping out on the snow on the balcony to this little bunker of a room in the closet in Jodi's office. Maybe it's a little bigger than a closet, but no windows. It just has like a table and chair shoved inside, and they're to sleep on the floor. This is going to be Jesse's life from now on.
How long was that already?
I think they were with Jodi for years.
Wow.
They tried running away multiple times. It wasn't until the third time that they were able to successfully break away. And even then, there were instances where they were brought in by family members to do these family events, and Jodi would be there and they would be terrified. Like, they were terrified that this would be another way to facilitate them going back with Jodi.
What's Jesse's emotion towards this whole incident?
So much trauma. I mean,
I bet.
they're very eloquent in the interview with Mormon Stories. They're able to articulate exactly what they felt in the moment that makes you feel like you were there with them. But at the same time, it's pretty clear that they're still working through a lot of the trauma. And not in like they're breaking down, which that would not be like a shameful thing or anything like that, but in the sense of they state that over and over. Like it has impacted every aspect of their lives. So this is going to be Jesse's life from now on. That's just the inside of this room. Jodi tells Jesse along the lines of, you're no longer going to school. You're not going home to your parents. As your therapist, it is my duty to fix you. You're going to live and work here full time. But the first rule number 1, you are not allowed to leave this room. All you can do every single day is write your sins out on a piece of paper. And every day you will tell me what you have written because I need to get the sin out of you. Jesse doesn't even know what other sins to come clean about. Jesse has told Jodi a few things, the reasons for them being taken to Jodi. One of them included that they had kissed a girl before, which is like a huge thing, I guess. So it's not like Jesse is uncooperating, which even then, this is sick and cruel. Jesse just doesn't know what else to write down. So Jesse's sitting there trying to think, and they're trying to think back to every single living action that they have ever done in their entire lives. I mean, maybe once while drinking from a public water fountain, they accidentally pressed 2 seconds too long. Like they're thinking that hard. Like, is there anything that I've done that I'm preventing the evil from coming out of my body? Jesse's sitting there writing down, one time I lied to my best friend Scotty. Like, just the stupidest things. These are the types of things. And at the end of the day, Jodi walks in, snatches the paper out of their hands, reads it out loud, and makes Jesse get on their hands and knees, beg for forgiveness while I read all of your sins back to you. When she's done reading the piece of paper out loud, she looks at Jesse, who is still on their knees. No. That's not it. This isn't it. There is more, and I need to know there's more. I know you've had multiple abortions. Jesse did not.
Whoa.
Jesse did not. Jesse would even say later in the interview, I mean, Jodi would rationalize and validate these types of behaviors through dreams and visions. Like she would have dreams that God came to her and told her that I had abortions. And so no matter what I said, I was a liar. She was convinced that every word that came out of my mouth was a lie. That gave her rationale to put duct tape on my mouth. That's why I was always duct taped. Everywhere Jessie went, she had duct tape on her mouth because every word I said was a lie.
That's crazy.
Which is like the most unhinged accusation. So first of all, Jesse has never had intimate relations that could result in pregnancy at that age. They didn't even really know or understand how it works. Also, Jesse likes girls. And that's what Jesse told Jodi. So Jesse's like, what are you talking about? I mean, they've known for a while now. There's just no way that they got pregnant, let alone terminated multiple pregnancies. Also, Jodi accuses Jesse of terminating, I think it was 14 pregnancies. It was a lot. It was just a lot, even though Jodi knows that Jesse is gay. Jesse says, I was struggling with my relationship with my father. I was struggling with self-hatred. I knew I was gay. I knew I was queer. That was a huge part of my internalized shame. Eventually, Jesse learns that the only way to even get Jodi to calm down is to just make up things. And this is going to become really important in part 4, the final part of this episode, because Ruby starts accusing her own children of doing some heinous things. Jodi.
I thought that also. I was like, there has to be a way out of this. I mean, she tried to run away a couple times, but then the third time is when she managed to run away. But to kind of tame the punishments a little bit, she seems to freak out. Jodi seems to freak out at very specific things, like the whole tapping and everything. Sometimes you're not even aware that you do that. I tap a lot and I'm not even aware that I do it, but she points it out every single time. So you'd be like, okay, this triggers her. I got to learn to not do that. Okay, doing this triggers her. So I got to learn to not do that, especially not when she's around, and just kind of trick her, I guess, lie, essentially, make up stuff to be like, yes, I'm cured. I am clear of all sins. Jodi was able to get away from that. Not Jodi. Oh my God. That stupid counselor. Jesse. I'm glad Jesse was able to get away from that. To that having duct tape over your mouth because everything is supposedly a lie. Everything is just so extreme.
He forces you to just make up sins. like the craziest sin that you can think of,
No.
you have to say it out loud or else she's probably going to torture you.
She's
It's
gonna
like no
torture you
matter
either
what they
way.
did, Jodi just wanted Jesse to be the devil. There was no way around it. You could not prove that Jesse was not the devil to Jodi. They say Jodi was
That was the complete opposite of what I thought was gonna happen.
There was no way around it. You could not prove that Jesse was not the devil to Jodi. They say Jodi was convinced that I was a drug addict, that I was a sex addict. She was convinced that I had multiple terminations. She was convinced of so many beliefs. Never allowed privacy. I was never allowed privacy when using the bathroom. I had 7 minutes to shower, 2 minutes to use the toilet with the door open. I wasn't allowed tampons because she was convinced that I was an addict and I was self-pleasuring with them. I was never allowed to have the bathroom door closed because she was convinced that I was constantly self-pleasuring in there. She was convinced that I was addicted to explicit material. I mean, I'd never seen porn at that point in my life. I didn't even know that people with my anatomy could self-pleasure. This is Jodi's manual on complete destruction of a human being, how to take a human and break them in every aspect, physical, mental, emotional. The physical is likely the easier part for Jesse, and that's saying a lot because it's just torture, plain and simple. Jodi would make Jesse run up and down Hellhole Pass Road for hours. The concept being, quote, for the reason of making me so physically uncomfortable that I would confess to sins. I mean, if you also made me run up and down a road for hours in the sweltering heat, I would confess to anything. I'd be like, okay, I just need a cup of water. You're right. I have reincarnated as the spawn of Satan. I would say whatever you wanted me to say. There was one time Jesse says that they finally stood up and said, no, I'm not doing that. Jesse says, that was the day that I walked away. And I was like, no. And I turned around and she punched me in the back and knocked me down. And Jodi, she's not tall, but she's sturdy. She's a powerhouse of a woman, very strong. Then she ended up going inside. I stayed outside. I went to a neighbor's house. The neighbor didn't know what to do. Jodi found me, came, and again, the neighbor was like, I don't want to tell her, but I have to because you're a minor and she has power of attorney. She's your guardian and I can't lie to her. That's how Jesse gets sent back.
No.
Mentally, it's confusing though. Jesse says they ran away 3 times only to end right back up at Jodi's house. And the punishment for running away would be to be blindfolded, tied up by their arms and legs, roughly thrown into the back of a car. Jesse had no clue where they were being taken. They're driving for like an hour before finally they hear the car shut off. They're in the mountains. Jesse will be forced to run up and down the mountains as repentance for running away. The worst part is it gets to the point where the torture and the life is so bad that once they're done running up and down the mountain, Jodi would start showering Jesse with praise. I knew you could do it. I knew you could repent, and my niece is still in there.
Get that out of here. This mental manipulation. Oh my gosh, she's insufferable. Like, I get it. You're suddenly like thrown into this. Well, you're not fully in it. But this random person comes to your door one day and they tell you about all this punishment that their aunt, right? That's their connection. Their aunt is like abusing them. And you're just like, hey, I mean, I hear you, but I can't really do anything about it because they have like parental ownership over you. So, and Jodi is in a position of power. So good luck to you. I wish I can help you. Like, I don't know. I get it. It's a weird position to be thrown in and be presented with, but like that hurts to hear.
Jesse says after attempting to run away 3 times, hating life, wanting to be in jail rather than with Jodi, but once they hear that little bit of praise, mentally your brain is so starved, so desperate, it gives you a high. Like you want to work harder for praise from Jodi. They say in the other part, that type of abuse that I don't think is talked about as much is that 90% of the time you're evil and horrible and wrong and the abuse is almost unbearable. But then there are moments where you're rewarded and you're now the best thing in the world. And so after these 6 hours of running up and down the mountain, the reward that Jodi gave me of acceptance of you did it, you did the thing, it creates this cycle, which I think is already the foundation and the prerequisites of this is instilled in the Mormon church of having to earn love.
But that has affected my life forever, for the rest of my life, of if I try a little harder, if I do a little bit more, maybe they'll love me, maybe they'll accept me, maybe they'll whatever. In this case, it was really extreme, where the abuse was so extreme. But then if you would bear it, then you would get these moments of immense reward from her. And it's just such a psychological fuckery. And I was scared of myself. People were scared of me. My family,
So it's like this very sick cycle of abuse. But
This whole case
emotionally,
is a
Jesse
whole
says
bunch of
they thought about
fuckery.
jumping from the balcony to break their legs because they felt like that would be less painful than the torture. Even going to jail, if they're so bad, just call the police. They would ask Jodi, just like, let them arrest me, please. If I'm that bad, let them arrest me. Jesse says, I would rather be in jail. And the isolation was the worst part. Jodi would tell everyone that Jesse is a nightmare, a terrifying nightmare. Jodi told family members the reason that she has Jesse sleep out on the balcony is because, quote, I'm scared. I'm scared Jesse is going to murder
scared?
me in my sleep. You don't know.
I mean, Jesse doesn't seem as unhinged as you. There are other people who probably would have taken that opportunity while you were sleeping.
She's going around saying, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I have to do this for my own protection. The worst part is Jesse believed it. They believed,
Wow.
maybe she's right. Maybe I just don't see it because I'm young and I'm not connected to God, I guess. But like, why am I so evil? Why is everyone so scared of me?
What about Jesse's parents?
Believed it, that they're evil.
Does Jesse have resentment towards the parents? Or?
Yes, I believe right now Jesse is no longer in communication with their parents.
I wouldn't
think
be either.
even some of their siblings had reactions of like, get over yourself when Jesse spoke about the trauma that happened when they were with Jodi. Jesse says, again, I believed all of this. I trusted these people. I trusted the church. The isolation got really bad. It's like Jodi is just practicing on Jesse before she evolves into trying to throw Paul Steed into prison to isolate him. Jesse constantly had duct tape on their mouth, and they were told, because you're a liar, every single word you say is a lie. You need to be physically reminded that everything you say is a lie. Sometimes Jodi would make them go to family functions with duct tape on their mouth, so people are seeing this. Jesse says, everyone around me, my cousins, my parents, everyone was terrified of me. I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone. I wasn't allowed to speak to my parents. Which, it's not even the fact that they had duct tape on their mouths and can't physically talk. It's the fact that nobody thought this was crazy.
Right? Exactly.
And I'm sure if you have duct tape on your mouth and your family members are acting scared of you, it almost makes you feel like some sort of animal.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you feel human anymore. It's so bizarre. I mean, it gets to the point where Jodi is convinced that Jesse is contagious, rubbing off evil onto everyone around them. If Jesse is in the kitchen, because Jodi is making them do something for her, if Jodi's kids, Jodi has 2 kids. Jodi's got 2 kids. Oh yeah, they're no longer on speaking terms with her. They're adults by the time that she gets arrested. But more on that later. But if they go into the room, these are Jesse's own cousins. If they want to use the kitchen, they would have to report to their mother that Jesse is in the kitchen, and then Jodi screams at Jesse to get the hell out of the kitchen, and Jesse would be forced to stand on the perimeter of the kitchen with duct tape on their mouth, just waiting for them to be done. Jodi would stare at them and say, see, no one loves you. You're a manipulator, and you destroy people's lives constantly. You destroyed your parents' lives. You're destroying your own life, and you're trying to destroy mine for trying to help you. Jodi would tell Jesse, no one actually cares about you, and you just manipulate them into caring. Nobody believed Jesse, not even their own parents. Jesse says, she destroyed my credibility. I mean, I was an angry teenager, and now she made me into this emotional, angry teenager that she had told people that I destroyed my family's life, that I destroyed my dad's life, and that every person I come in contact with, I destroy. So she sets up the premise, and then when I come forward and I try to tell people what's happening, what she's doing to me, she can be like, oh, see, Jesse's trying to destroy my life. That's what they do. It's all just... it adds up. So she's so good at protecting these loopholes and discrediting people. Eventually, Jesse manages to run away without getting caught. They go straight to the police station where they lie about their age and get taken to a shelter for those without homes. They say that was rough too, it was traumatizing, but it was still better than being with Jodi. Now, a big question everybody has though is why the hell is Jodi Hildebrandt so goddamn angry? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Why is she so upset with everyone? Why is she so angry? Why is she such a vile person? Maybe this.
Rejection.
Jesse remembers one very interesting conversation they had with Jodi, because Jodi makes it her entire life mission to make sure that Jesse is not gay. But they stayed. She did say something to me when I was living with her. That was very strange, because I've known I was queer since I was 7, and I was experimenting with girls and friends since I was 7 or 8. She knew about it and that it was very bad. It was very, very evil. But then she said something to me. She had this friend, her name's Bev. She said something to the effect of, yes, being gay is evil and pleasures of the flesh and yada yada. But if I were to have sexual relationships with my friends, if we were to, it would be different because there's a deep emotional connection there, and that's different.
What?
We were sitting in someone's living room and she said this, and I was just like, what? Yeah, that's called being gay. Like, what do you think gay relationships are like? They have deep emotional connections.
Dumbass.
Jesse was taken back by Jodi's comment of saying that, oh, if I were to have a relation with another woman,
Rejection.
It's fine.
it's because we have this connection.
Yes. And Jesse is like, that's literally called being gay.
So Jesse believes that Jodi is gay as well.
Yes. Now, there's a lot of quizzes online with names like Am I Gay quiz. They're all like fun, goofy. They ask what's your favorite Beyonce song, what you order at the bar. It's goofy, it's playful, don't take it too seriously. But to therapist Jodi Hildebrandt, it's not funny. It's not funny. This is not cute. As the
Can I take
world's
one?
worst life coach, Jodi will give advice to viewers who submit their life worries to Jodi. In one particular clip, she's responding to a viewer who states that she's going through her 13-year-old daughter's phone, comes across her search history where she's talking about taking a quiz. It's called the Am I Gay quiz. Jodi explains, there is no such thing as Am I Gay?
And so because we all have the gift of choice, there is no such thing as am I gay? Because that takes choice away. It says I am something, period, the end. Like I didn't have choice in it. It just is. And so that on its face is a lie. It's not the truth. It's a distortion. So here's the core principle that this mom needs to understand. So mom, the truth is that your daughter is a daughter of God, period, the end. She's not, I am bad, or I am fat, or I am unloved, or I am gay. All those things.
You are all of those things. You are all of these things.
Fat, or I am unloved, or I am gay. All those things are lies. All of them.
Which is like the collection of words she uses there is also unhinged. All these things are lies. All of them. It's a choice. I know that people get crucified when you say that to the world, but that is the truth. Being gay is a choice. It's about protecting her. You are a mother. Your job is to protect your young. If there was a lion coming at your young, you would stand in between and you put the baby behind you and you would defend that child with everything you have. Well, that's what's coming at you. It is worse than a lion. It is here to snuff out the life of your child and kill her spiritually.
What is?
Being gay. So lesbians, you heard it here first. Your aura is stronger than a lion.
Yikes.
Yeah, Jodi continues. I heard a song the other day called We'll Convert Your Children, We'll Convert Your Children. And it was a song about homosexuality and how they're coming for your children. It was the most evil thing I've heard. Which, side note, the entire song is tongue-in-cheek. They're singing about converting your children, that phrase, because it has always been, and still to this day, is used against the LGBTQ community. The only people that I've seen take that song seriously are both homophobic and dense up here. That's it. In another video, Jodi sarcastically says,
LGBTQ. And I think there's an I now. Plus. Okay, it's another of these movements that are going on in our world that is divisive.
I mean, I work with 3 people every day, and not every day, but probably once a week, somebody says a word like
Cisgender was the last word I learned. I'm like, what in the heck is that?
it's just a made-up word that someone placed meaning on. Because of what happened with Adam Paul Steed, Jodi actually does get her therapy license suspended briefly. That's the only negative thing that comes out to what she's done to Adam, ruin his life completely, shatter and disassemble his entire family and re-traumatize him. She just gets her therapy license suspended on probation for like 18 months. So she starts this new life as a life coaching business. Everything gets more extreme in her beliefs. The coaching business is called Connections, and she preaches about living in truth. And it's a lot more extreme than when she was a therapist, because when you're in therapy, you are still governed by certain guidelines. But as a life coach, there's no governance.
Oh, so she got suspended and now she's a life coach, which
Yes, a counselor.
she can do whatever the hell she wants now.
Yeah. They call themselves mental fitness trainers. They say, like how you would need a fitness trainer for your body, your physical body, you need one for your mental state. And it's all about living in the truth with a capital T. Living in truth and not distortion means having impeccable honesty, rigorous personal responsibility, and humility. Which, I mean, those are like really vague words. I feel like you could apply that to anything.
Yeah.
Whereas living in distortion means you are addicted to something. That something could be as serious as drugs and alcohol, but it could also be hobbies, entertainment, receiving compliments. You could be addicted to that. You could be addicted to mirrors. You could be addicted to driving, going on drives. I don't know where that came from. You are also living in distortion when you know that you are not enough. Which, by the way, Jodi Hildebrandt has a memoir that she titled "You Are Not Enough," and everyone's like, I keep reading it as "You Are Not Enough," which, like, yes, Jodi, you are not. They also say that you are living in distortion when you are living in lust, which includes being sexually attracted to your own spouse. That's living in lust. So these principles get built upon through the years, and they actually do get worse as they develop. If Jodi was not against drugs, I would think that she developed her ideas while super high on some random couch and elbow deep into a Pringles can, because her ideas of truth and distortion, these cannot be sober thoughts. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. We can only assume that the idea of formulating a coherent thought is too big of an obstacle course for Jodi because it doesn't make sense. The principles are:
Nothing makes
truth
sense.
is always loving. Distortion is never loving. Control is never loving. So remember, if you really want to love someone, you'll reflect truth to them. If you love someone, you can be yourself around them, and you don't have to tiptoe around what you're saying. When you love someone, you hold boundaries with them, and your boundaries won't offend them. Anyone who is offended by a boundary is in distortion. Anyone who is offended by a boundary is someone who is being selfish and wants what they want. So with these principles of honest, responsible, and humble, you will have calmness, permission, peace, and a willingness to hold boundaries for you and your child. Who needs a lobotomy when you have Jodi Hildebrandt's great teachings? I think fortune cookies make more sense and are less vague than her so-called teachings. She would also hit couples with the, Jesus said, having the thought is the same as actually doing it. So if you think about your hot coworker, you actually did your hot coworker.
If I have some like murderous thoughts about you, does that mean I have, offed you or will eventually off you? Like, I'm sure someone has had one of those thoughts, someone who you have come across.
One therapist who was training under Jodi says she was excellent in exploiting Mormon anxiety, being pure, being sinless, being perfect. But Connections was more than just therapy. It was a whole community that she created, a whole platform of people drinking her Kool-Aid. It was like a church within a church, and Jodi was the prophet. That person also didn't like the way that Jodi would treat clients entirely differently according to their status. He says, a client would come in who was well-known and had a lot of money, and she would say to me, we really got to take care of this one. And I thought, that's odd.
Wow.
So this was when Jodi was a therapist. And he would say, like, we're therapists. We're trained not to care about if that person has money. I think she was just salivating. She was salivating about money and power. Like, that excited her. What can I do with a client with a lot of money, influence, and a lot of power? Jodi was a businesswoman. I mean,
She really has a lot of addictions, huh?
yeah. She knew how to hit on a pain point, and the
hypocrisy.
biggest pain point for people in order to turn a profit. Jessie says, this is the crazy thinking about it now, but I used to do her billing. So Jessie is Jodi's niece, remember? And they say, I used to do her billing. She would force me to do it, like free labor. Jodi's billing for the therapy session, Jessie says, I did her billing and she bills the LDS church. So every client, essentially, I would say the vast majority of her clients were from bishop recommendations, just based off the billing that I would do. So the host of Mormon Stories mentions, in the Mormon church, if somebody can't afford a therapist, sometimes tithes and offerings might be used by the bishop who recommends his ward members to Jodi. He will then foot the bill from the church offerings, pay Jodi. She's making money off the church, allegedly, right? But they pay the bill. Now, here's the problem with that. One, Jodi is gaining a lot of wealth and success from the church itself. And two, a lot of victims have come forward to state that another insidious way that Jodi ruins people's lives is once your bishop pays for your therapy, they are entitled to all therapy notes.
What?
Like there's no
What?
such thing. Like you usually have to sign things that say my bishop can also know what I talk about in therapy. So it's this, Jodi will alienate you from your bishop, accuse you of doing some heinous things allegedly. Is the allegation against Jodi. I mean, multiple allegations against Jodi. Even when Jessie's physical state started changing because of the physical torture that their aunt was putting them through, I mean, a lot of people at the church could see them in this mental and emotional anguish. People start going to the bishop about them, and the bishop then turns to Jodi, gives Jodi a full rundown, like, these are what people are saying about Jessie. Jessie says, Bishop went to Jodi, told her, gave her the names of the people, what they said, the reason why these people thought anything was wrong with me. And according to Jodi, it was because I was emotionally manipulating them into thinking that I would go to church, wear a long face, and manipulate them into feeling sorry for me. Jodi would facilitate meetings with the bishop and with Jessie to tell them, no, tell them, Jessie, nothing is wrong, right? Jodi's great. Which is already highly unethical. Okay, side note, already unethical. If you are a therapist, every single therapist, at least the ones that should be licensed anyway, they say if their family member, a niece, a cousin 5 times removed, doesn't matter, they would never be their therapist. They would recommend someone, that's it. You do not become the therapist for your niece. And not only that, but you don't have them move in with you. And since, Jodi is in competition for the worst person alive, and just bring the gold home, Jodi would facilitate meetings with herself, Jessie, and Jessie's bishop. And the church leader, the bishop, would tell Jessie, you're like a horse. You got to be broken in. Jessie says, we drove to all the people's homes, all the church members that were concerned for me, and Jodi sat me in the car. She told me exactly what I was going to tell these people, and I would go in and apologize to them for manipulating them into thinking that Jodi was doing something wrong to me when she was actually saving my life. Jessie says, also, Jodi hates men. She hates men. She thinks all men are pretty much, vast majority of men are evil, including church leaders. She thought church leaders were idiots. And she had the answer and that she understood it. She thought she was fighting tooth and nail on the front lines of Satan. But somehow, there are still people that believe Jodi is the all-knowing oracle to the truth. One review reads, Jodi's one-on-one calls and the group classes have been life-changing for our family. Years of false beliefs were surfaced in weeks, what years of therapy failed to do. I will say, anyone who believes Jodi's tactics are questionable are simply not ready to take responsibility for their choices. 5 stars for
Please.
Jodi Hildebrandt. Review left by Ruby Frankie. 18-year-old Ruby is not looking for a degree, which seems counterintuitive because she is a student at Utah State University. But where else are you supposed to find the love of your life who is going to be athletic, handsome, smell good, comfortable to talk to, well-groomed, not skinny, 5 inches taller than Ruby, doesn't have anger issues, is not snappy, is not snooty, is good with music and teaching, wears khakis and collared shirts, Eagle Scout, is good with siblings, likes yard work, prays daily, reads scriptures daily, wants 6 kids, willing to help kids with homework, and is crazy about me.
Just stay single, bro. You have all of these. I mean, some of these you don't even have to request. Some of these they just have naturally. But you have this whole list of this like required things in order to be in a relationship with that person.
That is her list of what she's looking for in her future husband. And she's looking right now. 18 years old, in college, looking for a husband.
How do we know that?
Oh, her prerequisites? She has a whole graph of it labeled and detailed on a poster board that's hung in the back of her closet.
Not
When
a
she starts
graph.
dating, she's going to go in and start writing the boys' names across and then coloring in the boxes. So if you're 5 inches taller, she'll color in that box. And then at the end, she's going to see who has the most colored boxes, and that's her future husband.
You seem a bit obsessive. Isn't that a sin? Like, what? That is crazy.
What?
Yeah. She's like efficient with her dating.
That is crazy.
Yeah. The boy that she's going to marry is going to check off the most. And one of the contenders is Kevin Frankie. It's not the most romantic meeting, but that's fine. She did not write love at first sight type of romance movie meeting on her chart. Ruby and Kevin Frankie, they bump into each other at a hot dog stand on campus. And instantly, he's a good contender. He's laid back. Ruby likes that. She wants someone to join her in life, not run her life, not lead her in life. She wants to drive the car, which also, side note, a lot of netizens have been asking, 8 passengers, then who is driving? And then a lot of netizens comment Jodi. Interestingly, Kevin is just as interested in Ruby as she is in him, maybe more so. He was heartbroken when he realized that while watching a movie with Ruby under the blanket, he was holding her hand. But when he looks under, there is another guy dating Ruby on the other side, also holding her hand.
What?
He's so pissed about it, but he becomes determined. And I don't know how he knew about Ruby's little graph of dating in the back of her closet. I don't know if he stumbles upon it by accident.
Ew, yeah. Can you imagine you actually get in a relationship with this person and then you happen to find this whole graph they have in the back of their closet with all these other names of other boys in the campus? That is kind of creepy, honestly. It's just the hypocrisy of it all, honest. Like, she seems so conservative and everything, but at the same time, you happen to be in a relationship with someone else and holding hands with them at the same time you're holding hands with this other guy. Like, what is happening here?
But once he finds it, he's ready. He jots down every single thing on that list. And this is the new Kevin Frankie. This is who he will be from this day forward. He says, I went
Really?
home and I studied hard. I studied that list harder than I did my schoolwork, I think. I was very
Really?
insecure with who I was. I was willing to change to become somebody that somebody else would appreciate and love. And it works. After 2 weeks of
Wow.
dating, this is like 2 weeks after meeting each other, they get engaged. And within 2 months of being engaged, they get married. And at just 21 years old, Ruby gives birth to their very first child, New York Times bestselling author Sherry.
Yeah, okay. Once again, this doesn't apply to everybody. Sure, there has been some incredibly rushed marriages that are incredibly successful and live a long, happy life filled with love. But more times than not, I mean, this relationship was just bound to be doomed. Like, 2 weeks? That's insane.
Yeah, get her book. 1 down, 5 more to go. 6 kids total, and Ruby Frankie is the type of mother who needs a scapegoat. She would be a perfect mom, right? Had it not been for this kid. Everything would have been perfect had it not been for this one. A lot of narcissistic parents always find a scapegoat in the family, and it's usually a kid. Every other kid is good. Every other kid is well behaved in their eyes, except this kid. If something goes wrong, it's this kid.
Does the kiss shift?
Yes. The kid, it seems like in the beginning, it is Chad. And then once a lot of the older children move out, once Chad and Sherry move out and Kevin moves out, it'll be the youngest too. Chad is the eldest son, the second born. And in part 1, we go over Ruby taking away his phone, his bedroom door, even sending him to a troubled teen wilderness camp for over a month. It seems like this was all done at the recommendation of Jodi, which Ruby meets Jodi through a friend who is telling Ruby, listen, if anyone can, quote, fix Chad, which, by the way, Chad, and I don't think any of the Frankie kids needed any sort of fixing. They just needed a mother who loved them and did not vlog all of their worst moments and put them online 5 days a week. But she says, if anyone can, quote, fix Chad, it's going to be Jodi. Now, the first Zoom meeting between Chad, he remembers for some reason his parents were so nervous. Chad thought it was goofy. He's like, I'm just going to get through this Zoom meeting with this Jodi lady and I'm going to be done with it. They hop on Zoom. Jodi says, Chad, it's really good to see you. Are you ready to start living an honest and responsible and humble lifestyle? Chad says, absolutely. Let's get started. I'm so ready to live a responsible life. You're lying, Chad. Chad said he went silent because he's never had a therapist or whatever call him out so directly in front of his parents. Like, you're lying about that. It was just very aggressive. Chad looks over and he just knew that his mom is hooked from that moment forward. Jodi is not taking Chad's bullshit.
Is this like in the middle of their YouTube journey? Like
Yes.
they're already famous?
Already famous.
So do you think Jodi coming in already like, oh, I want these people as...
It seems like
I want to
it.
latch onto this
Yes.
them because they're famous. And...
Famous, rich, influence, everything is perfect.
I was wondering, I was just wondering, like, how did Ruby get in touch with Jodi? I mean, Jodi seems to already be established, unfortunately. So maybe that's how she was easily able to find it. But it seems to be the opposite way, where Jodi found Ruby in her family, essentially.
I see.
Yeah. Now, after the Zoom call, Jodi reaches out to the Frankies and she tells them, look, your son Chad, he needs an outcome. He needs an outcome for the way that he showed up to that meeting. He's running circles around you guys. Immediately, they just start taking away everything. His phone, Xbox, no friends, Anasazi Wilderness Camp. He doesn't get a bedroom. Eventually, they take away football, that was honestly Chad's, he was really good at football. Really good. That he wanted to get a scholarship and just get out of there. Chad says, my mom was trying everything in her power to fix me, but I never felt like she was doing it for me. It always felt like she was doing it for herself.
Yeah.
At one point, my mom got kind of teary-eyed and she said, Chad, this is your last chance. Jodi and I found a military camp in Virginia and we are just waiting for one more time of you acting up. And if that happens, we're going to send you there until you're 18. Chad says, I don't know. I think I really just sensed something in my mom that realized that she's not going to let Jodi go. This is just how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be from now on, and I just decided to start listening. Ruby's thought is, if this is going so well with Chad, why not Kevin? Maybe Kevin Frankie, Ruby's husband, can benefit from some counseling. Kevin Frankie works as a professor at BYU in the civil engineering department with a focus on geotechnical engineering, meaning he teaches how soil and rocks and earth materials interact with structures and buildings and infrastructure. It's a lot of work pertaining to the soil, so they're really well versed in fundamentally soil mechanics and just how rocks behave. So how certain soils respond to static and dynamic loads, how an earthquake can have the interactions between the infrastructure and the soil specifically in that region, and how they can learn to make the infrastructure better for the future. It's a lot of smart stuff. It's indisputable that Kevin Frankie is academically very intelligent, but in terms of teaching, some would argue he's not very good. His Rate My Professor rating is 30% would take again, with a solid 2.2 out of 5. One review on Rate My Professor says, he's very rude and mean. He spoke down to students in a very condescending, disrespectful manner. I truly did not have a great experience in this class. It wasn't an insanely hard class. I take schoolwork very seriously and I've never had issues with a professor before Professor Frankie. Hard professors are one thing, but downright rude, dismissive, and arrogant is another. Save yourself the misery if you can and take something else with someone else. Another just reads, weird dude. Interestingly enough, another reads, unable to get in contact outside of class. He's very controlling and you can only have the same views that he has or you will be looked down upon. Caused me so much stress that I dropped out. Which we talked about this briefly in part 1, but Kevin does not appear to be involved in his family life. One would assume that perhaps he was using all his energy at work, but a lot of the students say he was impossible to get in contact with outside of class.
That's weird.
So if he's not working, he's not with his family, what is he doing? Another rating reads, Professor Frankie was rude from day one. He does not respect his students at all. He was always in a bad mood and made class miserable. He would make horrible homophobic remarks and make us students feel incompetent. His classroom felt hostile and like a prison. I hate it there. Kevin says he started taking connections classes with Ruby, group sessions. Actually, the first time he went was a full seminar. Like, you know, a whole workshop. It's like one of those hotel conference rooms that you book out. Jodi's hosting it. Jodi's up on the stage and the whole workshop is love versus lust. Jodi would say, love is giving, it's honest. Lust is about taking, it's about greed, it's about control, and you can lust over anything. If a man says he doesn't lust, he's lying. Many of them are lusting, whether they're lusting sexually, they're being selfish. So we have a huge problem, okay? That's what Jodi's saying. Kevin leans in. looks over at his wife, Ruby. He's about to roll his eyes when he looks and sees that Ruby and every other person in this entire hotel
Smiling.
conference room is laser focused. They're like on the edge of their seats. He whispers to Ruby, "This feels like a cult, like a man-hating club." Kevin says the experience was very confusing. You know, this is a bunch of man-hating women that are just looking for excuses to tear down their husbands. And I mean, that's what it felt like to me in there. But it's confusing because there were a lot of people that I respected, a lot of people that were on that stage with microphones in hand giving testimonials of how great this was and how it changed their lives and their marriage. The seminar does come at a very vulnerable time. He says, "To be honest, we were pretty lost, and Ruby believed this was the roadmap back to the place that we both wanted to go. So after the seminar, she sat me down and she said, 'I'm concerned about our marriage, and I'd like to invite you to join a Connections men's group,' which is a group of men that meet up on Zoom every week with Jodi so she can berate them about how they're ruining their lives if they ever place their eyeballs on a nude photo of a woman." In the beginning, at least, Kevin and Ruby get sucked in. He says, "We both felt like there was purpose again. Even the kids felt a change. Ruby was happier. She never shouted anymore. We were really happy, like a happy family again."
Oh my God, that scared
Clearly,
me.
very quickly, Kevin gets very into Connections. There are clips of Kevin and Frankie giving advice to other parents in the Connections groups. He's sitting there right next to Ruby saying things like, "There's so many culturalisms today that are just being promoted and celebrated and taught from the highest towers in every part of the land that it's my job to make kids happy. It's my job to give my kids a magical childhood. It's my job to make my children smile and laugh. And it's my job to make my children successful." No. Sherry remembers in her book, yeah, that's exactly what Ruby does. Ruby does not have time or patience for a child that wants to be happy or is even sick. So now Kevin's like buying into all of this. He's like, discipline, discipline. It's not my job to make sure that my children are emotionally stable. In the beginning, Ruby and Kevin are the stars of the new group sessions that Jodi is hosting. They become the teacher's pets, if you will, and everyone would do well to learn from them. Many victims have come forward to say that Jodi is very meticulous about how she tortures people in these group counseling sessions. You could be in a group setting with all these husbands, but if you ever admit that you have been self-pleasuring, they will pair you up with an accountability buddy. This is a non-mental health professional that you have to text 3 times a day at the very least. Anytime you want to self-pleasure or do anything that you shouldn't be doing, even if you just briefly thought about it for 2 seconds, you have to tell your accountability buddy. They take a full log. They're like an accountant. Excel spreadsheet this. And then there's these confessional meetings where you meet up with your wife and Jodi and you have to confess everything to her. And if you maybe don't mention one thing on that list, the accountability buddy will rat you out. And then everyone in the group pressures the wife to punish the offending spouse in some way. Other victims who have come forward state that Jodi encourages the wife to punish husbands by kicking them out of the bedroom. No hugging, no kissing, no talking, no nothing, no intimacy or even personal connection for months at a time, all for the unforgivable crime of self-pleasure.
Does Jodi have a husband?
She did briefly an ex-husband for 2 years. And it was apparently a very messy divorce.
Not a long marriage, huh?
Jodi would use that where the husband is now going through months of isolation. And it's almost like she's waiting for the husband to self-pleasure again and have a relapse. That's when she pushes the wife to kick him fully out of the house and start initiating a divorce. Aside from that, the group sessions are just group bullying sessions. Kevin says, if Jodi piles on somebody, they all pile on. If Jodi praises somebody, they all praise. And so it really felt like a pack of dogs. And Jodi was the alpha. And whoever she sticks the dogs on, they would go. Whoever she praised, you know, the dogs would just lick them up and down. And that's just how these groups went. The revenue from these group counseling sessions alone is estimated to be, on the conservative side, have brought in Jodi about $30,000 a month. Now, Kevin would start helping to lead these sessions. Yeah, he was very involved at this point. He would talk about how he was addicted to all sorts of things, sports, his phone, work, and how he always just made his wife feel like she had to hold the house down. And it was this whole conversation he's like leading and teaching. And it seems like the only one in the entire Frankie household that's really concerned, that's not a full-fledged child that's getting concerned about this, is Sherry. She's very suspicious of Jodi. Something about Jodi is cold, not maternal, but in the worst way possible. It's like the absence of any maternal energy. Sherry starts looking into who exactly Jodi Hildebrandt is, and she seems like a grifter. Honestly, like a con woman. On her website, there's packages that you can purchase. Leadership training, 6-week program, 1%, 800. Team leadership program, 5,000. Company leadership training, 15,000. Jodi learns the reason that Jodi switched from therapy to full-blown counseling and life coaching is because, yes, there's more money, but also she's on probation. Her license was suspended.
Wow.
At this point, Paul Steed's story was not fully out, so it just was like Jodi was disclosing patient information to the honor code at BYU. It wasn't the level that we know today. Even the way Jodi responds to criticism is alarming. In one video, Jodi demands people leave her better reviews. She starts ranting.
It's confusing to me. It's like you guys like what you're getting from us, and we're saying, hey, can you please help? Can you please take 5 minutes and hit a button and go give us a 5-star review? Please? I don't understand why you won't do it. There is a link underneath every single video.
I think we've had 5 people from the last time I asked, which is probably a month ago. 5 out of almost 9,000, 5 people to give us a review. That's 5. And we've had probably 50 to 75 people give us 1-star reviews. So we started with a 5, and in 3 months, we're down to like a 2. There is a link underneath every single video that says, give us a review. Click it and give us a 5-star review, please. I don't understand why you won't do it.
They open their eyes.
Even if you put all of this
and they're
to the
being
side, Sherry is
truthful.
noticing how extreme things are getting in the house. Jodi would say extreme things like, it's extreme, but it has to be because we're surgically removing the sin. We're surgically removing the sin from your souls. May 2021, Jodi calls Ruby freaking out. She's wailing and sobbing into the phone. This is Jodi, the life coach extraordinaire, crying to her client. She tells
Mental
Ruby that it's
breakdown.
happening. It's time. The second coming, doomsday, the apocalypse. The shadow figures are coming for her. They're haunting her. They just surround her at night, all around the bed. Jodi knows Satan is behind this. He has it out for her. He's the one sending them.
Your demons
We talked
came to
about this
haunt
in part
you.
1, but Ruby and Kevin were prepared for doomsday, the second coming. Kevin says, because we were in that state of mind where we were ready for something big to happen, we were expecting it, we just weren't expecting this. So to them, this sounds incredibly rational, level-headed. Yes, of course, Satan Daddy is sending you demons at night. So they go to
Satan
Jodi's house
Daddy,
to be with
girl.
her while she goes through these demonic possessions to give her support. So for months, the church bishop would come to help Jodi, I guess, with exorcisms, but nothing's working. Bishop even suggests maybe the demons are attached to your $5 million house. Maybe you gotta leave. Which means maybe Jodi can stay with you, Ruby. Live with you and the rest of the Frankie kids until she's better. Move into the Frankie household. Kevin says, I was like, oh, hell no. I don't want this in my house. But I was beaten over the head with it. That's really insensitive. She's done so much to help our family. You're being selfish. She needs it, and come on. And it won't be for long. And so I relented, and I was like, okay, actually, this could be kind of fun. Let's make it fun. And she needs vacation, so we'll just do all of this. And it turned into the moment she showed up at my house, which was just the weirdest crap started happening. He says,
so the church leader told Jodi to live with Frankie?
well, it was more so, I don't know how to help you. Maybe the demons are in your house. I gotta go.
Oh, so Ruby just took her in.
Yeah, Jodi and Ruby were like, oh, let's go to Ruby's house.
Okay.
Now, Kevin says out of nowhere, the lights would turn on and off. It sounds like people were walking inside the walls. You could feel there's spirits floating around. Kevin says he hated it, that it was weird. But
Bro, we're preparing for the second coming and doomsday and everything. We got the whole basement stocked up with food. We've been preparing this for years, and then here you come in with your demons. Like, what the hell? Okay, back a week later, literally a week later. So let's finish this
you
off.
could feel there's spirits floating around. Kevin says he hated it, that it was weird. But he probably didn't hate it as much as Sherry hated it. She just remembers her mom calling her, you have a couple of hours to take whatever you need out of your room, and Jodi's moving in.
Wow.
You're moving out in 2 weeks already to go to college, so I figured you only have to deal with it for 2 weeks, so it should be fine.
I thought she was kicking her out. Like, yeah, Jodi's coming in, so you're going out. Jodi needs a room. So I had to pick a child to evacuate the house. But she's leaving for college. Good for her getting out of that situation.
Sherry says it was fine, but I thought it was weird that a therapist would move in with her patients. But
Yeah,
it gets
very.
worse. Sherry writes in her journal at the time, the house's spirits feel weird with Jodi here. Something's going on between her and my parents that we don't know about, and the whole thing is super secretive. I'm trying to spend as much time out of the house as I can.
This is the desert house?
No, this is
Oh.
the Frankie house.
Oh, the desert house is not Frankie house.
Oh, I kept envisioning the whole scenario. Every time she talks, I like to picture it in my head so I can get like a vision of it. Every single time I kept visioning every scenario in that desert house.
No, that's Jodi's house.
Oh.
Yeah. This is like their family home that they've been vlogging in.
Okay.
Now, Jodi is still suffering from her demonic possessions, her trances. Both Ruby and Kevin are trying to help her through it, but eventually Jodi starts responding best to Ruby. Ruby even volunteers to stay in Jodi's room overnight, which is her daughter Sherry's room, to comfort Jodi because the demon spirits get more active at night. They start sleeping in the same bed. Ruby tells Kevin, you know what, I'm just going to start sleeping in there. And if I need you, I'll come down and get you. And maybe if I'm in the room with Jodi, these things will leave her alone. Kevin says, I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. That is when they started sleeping in the same bed. Kevin says that's also when, quote, Ruby started having like trances and stuff. I would say it was probably around that time that she believed she was going to heaven and seeing God and Jesus talking with them. They would stay locked in that room for 4 to 5 hours, and then they would come out all on cloud 9, and Ruby would say things like, she just had this amazing vision. We're all bringing all this stuff into the world. We're doing God's work.
What type of drugs?
Kevin says, I don't know the extent to which their interactions went, but it was much more than a friendship, much more than a sisterhood. It was uncomfortably intimate. Sherry says, I never remembered her being that sympathetic towards me when I was having similar issues, aka nightmares as a kid, but I guess this was different with Jodi. Also, Sherry says, Ruby and Jodi would stay upstairs all day and they would rarely leave the house unless they were going to Dairy Queen. Their diets were a cardiologist's nightmare, just sugar and ranch dressing. So after
Wow.
moving out for college, there's this very strange incident where Sherry has to go back home to get a few things from her room. She says, I pushed the door to my bedroom and I looked around confused. The room was bathed in the soft glow of candles. The air was heavy with the scent of lavender and vanilla wafting from the massage oils in the dresser. I quickly grabbed what I needed and got the hell out of there, feeling like I
Massage
just walked into
oils.
someone else's honeymoon suite. The only thing missing was rose petals on the bed.
That is crazy.
Sherry says the whole thing was made weirder by the fact that that night, Sherry's sleeping on the couch. She can't fall asleep. It's like 5 a.m. She hears something and she writes in her book, quote, I cracked one eye open just in time to see Ruby tiptoeing out of my room, her hair messy, her cheeks flushed, and her robe hastily tied, heading back to the bedroom she shared with my dad, a strange smile on her face. She looked mischievous. What the hell was going on? Why was Ruby sneaking around in the middle of the night like a teenager trying not to get caught by her parents? Were they really doing candlelit massages in my bedroom? How could all of this be happening with all of us in the house? She continues, it was equal parts fascinating and horrific. Two women who preached, quote, truth while living lies, who condemned queerness very publicly in their connections videos while embodying it privately in my room,
Speak on
my
it.
bed, most likely.
Speak on it.
Later, Sherry will find notes in Ruby's computer detailing how frustrated Ruby was about having to cater to Jodi's needs for physical affection without getting anything in return. Which is a lot going on, but at the time, all Sherry is most concerned about is her family's safety. Sherry starts Googling, is my
Good
family
reasons.
in a cult? This is where I leave you with part 2. And stay tuned for part 3 and part 4. So part 3, we're going to go over if people could have seen more warning signs. Because up until the day of the
More?
arrest, they're still posting podcast episodes, like 30-minute podcast episodes. And some of what they're teaching kind of lines up to what they're journaling about the torture that was taking place. And then in part 4, we go through the arrests. Stay tuned. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.
I'm surprised that people would need more type of red flags. Also, they like have are they like vaguely talking about the types of punishments and tortures that they do on these kids, or is it like just so out in the open? Because I mean, clearly very comfortable. They have so many years of experience with all this torture. I wouldn't be surprised if they just openly talk about it just so blatantly like that. But yeah, just the hypocrisy of it all, just the projection. how you can be so hateful towards one thing, but you yourself are that thing. So it's like you're just hating yourself and you're just spreading your hatred to everyone else. Like, why don't you just go help yourself? Go seek some help. And that's such a wild question to end it on. And search up yourself, like, is my family in a cult? Like, I think, well, it's different for everybody. Um, but there's just some certain key signs in there that's like very bizarre. Glad that she's leaving the house to go to college, but she has a right to be concerned for her family. Uh, Mary is actually, oh, the wife. The wife. Um, I don't know. I wasn't exactly because I didn't think she was innocent at all, but I didn't exactly dog on her as much as Jodi. Yes, Jodi. I get confusing the niece with the therapist. It's Jessie is the niece and Jodi is the therapist. Um, because I just thought that, she's already had a baby, like 1 year old, 2 year old, was it? And she's currently pregnant. So I'm sure she's like going through it emotionally, mentally, and was like an easy target for Jodi to feed things on. So I wasn't dogging on her as much, but she's definitely not innocent. This isn't the same person, is it? This chick right here, meditation teacher. Oh, but the end though, how the what was his name again? The father didn't get custody of his kids yet, it seems, because I don't know, maybe all the charges on him and everything. But how she just like is more focused on dating. So she like leaves the kids with him for long extended periods of time. It's like, yeah, yeah. Some people just need to be exposed. So apparently there's no such thing as conflict of interest in Utah because there's zero separation of church and state. The hypocrisy, the projection. Just say you're jealous of people who can be open and comfortable with their own sexuality. They know themselves and you're just in denial. I don't know how she grew up or anything, but you just gotta accept yourself. You wouldn't be in this situation. But yeah, the whole beginning part with Mary and Adam, that's his name, that was the husband's name, it was such a sad scene of events that happened for him. All the false accusations, just everything about it, them whole scheming up all this nasty, just horrible lies. Was the husband Adam or was it Kevin? Either way, that husband in like the beginning of the story. Oh yeah, the whole beginning video of her acting all possessed and everything. Like, what the hell was that? Literally, what the hell was that? I don't know if I mentioned it. Is it they're just surrounding themselves constantly around like the end of the world or something like that. All this really made up religious BS. I'm sure some people believe it, and if you do, respectfully, that's you. I'm not religious by any means, but there comes to a point where maybe not even surrounding religion in any key theme, but here you just surround yourself so much in it that you start to believe everything to an extreme, to the point where you can like gaslight, brainwash yourself. I'm sure it's a thing in psychology. I don't know if she's going to talk about it at some point, because if it's either that, she's got some mental problems, or she's just faking it. She's faking being possessed, and she needs to get the hell out of my house. And take the wife with her. Take whatever her name is. Ruby, take Ruby with her. She just doesn't stand on what she preaches. I mean, we can list off so many hypocritical things about her. You can add this one to the list as well. So much stupidity in this whole whole events, like the whole thought process, everything about it, and it's just gonna get worse and worse. Like this is just like the peak of the roller coaster, and we're just gonna go downhill. Oh, I took that Am I Gay quiz just for fun, right? Because she brought it up. I already knew the answer. And I just clicked the first link that showed up, and it's like that WikiHow quiz. It's the first one that showed up. It says, "Am I gay? You're probably straight." I already knew the answer though, as it sounds like you're into people of the opposite sex and don't really relate to common queer experiences. Still, there's one thing you have in common with folks of the LGBTQ community. You deserve love and respect from all your relationships. Okay, Jodi, Ruby. Ultimately, romantic and sexual attraction exists on a wide spectrum. And no quiz or person can tell you how you should identify. Not WikiHow having more sense.